Hello, welcome everybody. Really sorry for our 5 minutes delay. And thank you very much for being here presently an online session. And welcome to the second session of our fast track school promoted into the Saltwater European project. This session is taken in facilities of Instituto Tecnológico de Canarias in Pozo Izquierdo in the Canary Islands. And during 2 days, the partners of this project are going to promote evolutive training on scientific research methodology and data of different combination of water treatments driven by solar energy. Candidate and young research will provide support to their respective evolution for becoming young and leader research in these fields. Solar2Water is a widening European project led by University of Évora and with the participation of University of Palermo, Plataforma Solar de Almería, and the Instituto Tecnológico de Canarias. Solar2Water promotes the solar driving water solution next to solar and water energy solutions, creating a networking with Évora, raising its research profile through the exploitation of their staff and infrastructures, synergies in the establishment of a reference European facility in Évora for the development and testing of circular solar driving water treatment technologies. I hope after first session of the fast track school celebrated in Palermo in the last January, this second session focused on beyond of the state of the art could increase the knowledge of the research presently here. So thank you very much for being here, and I hope that this training will cover all the expectations that we are creating with this training course. And thank you very much for the partners, for your hard work in this project, and to be here and presenting the results for everybody. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Tony de la Fuente. I work at the water department here at ITC. Today we are going to have 9 presentations, 4 before the coffee break and 5 after that. We will only be having 1 online presentation and the other 8 will be on site. Let me start with my colleague, Javier Acerete, that is going to present the beyond state of the art of PV row technologies. Please try to adjust your presentations to 25 minutes is the time we have for each presentation. And after each presentation, we will have time for 1-2 questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. So good morning to all. We are going to see how can we do reverse osmosis desalinization with solar PV. Okay. So if we take into account the PV, the reverse osmosis is a constant charge. You can see it here. So we have, this is a small desalinization unit that we have here in Pozo Izquierdo, and this is the high pressure pump. So we have a constant charge as the desalinization unit is working. This is the intake pump. And in the other hand, in the PV solar installation, we have this source available, depending on the irradiation. So how can we match this? having a constant charge with a non-constant and non-stable energy source. And in the same hand, in another hand, we have equipment within the solar desalination unit that are very sensible to low quality of the net with intention and frequency, so we can damage our pumps or control system if we don't have a good quality net. And also we can have physical damage within our equipment, like in pumps, if we do start and stops, shutdowns and start very suddenly without not controlling or doing smoothly. So what are the different possibilities? How can we match this constant charge? How can we supply with a non-constant energy supply and non-stable without damaging our unit and producing the water that we may need? So there are two main possibilities: off-grid installations and on-grid. Within the off-grid installation, we have two possibilities: or without creating a microgrid, only the solar regulator will do all the control system, or create a macrogrid that gives the power and the quality of the net needed for the equipment. So this one is more for a small desalination unit, up to 100 to 100 liter cubic per day, and the other one large scale units. And the system is very, very different because in the first one we need a good control system that adjusts the productions to the energy available and does the changes needed so the equipment is not damaged. And on the other hand, we only have the PV installation that is giving the energy but is not participating in the control. So either the energy supply comes from the net or from the PV system, but there is not coupling of the system. So on reality, in the second one, we are only injecting energy even to the net because they are net connected, they are grid connected. So it's an energy supply. It's not in real sense a PV at all. It's supporting. Okay, let's see 3 examples. This is the Sol, the one that you will install it in Portugal, in Évora, and we have here. So it's a very little desalination unit, 13 meter cubes per day. And we have this regulator that does the control. This is the electrical diagram of the filler. So this is the equipment. It's only one equipment that does all the control. We can configure it to the parameters that we need. The high pressure pump, intake pump, okay, all other equipment, and the batteries. Okay. So we will see later how this works in real time. This is a very little to see the size of the unit and the control system, the regulator. A little larger unit, this is in Cape Verde that we have installed within the Sol2H2O project, 120 meters cubes per day, and you see this is 34 kilowatt, so it's increasing the PV installation, the batteries you see, and the equipment that you need. So what is the main difference? This is a real microgrid PV desalination unit connected. We need to create a microgrid. This microgrid, what it gives us is the quality of the net, intention and frequency. And this is essential, is the heart of the electrical system. And there are different architectures. We need to try the best that fits for our system. So is this system. You see, we have some modules that are injecting the energy only for the microgrid, so it's stable, and we have a control system. And the batteries will give the support when there is no sun, either to shut down the unit if we don't have dimensioned it to work 24 hours, or to give the energy when there is no sun and we want to produce. And we can have external support either by engines or grid connected. There are different possibilities. And in the other hand, we have a supply of PV source for the system itself. But this is the heart of the system. We need to create this microgrid because we have equipment that are very sensitive to low quality of energy, either in frequency or intensity. So what this means in reality? That we have to create a three-phase microgrid. So we need three converters, three solars. And we need the PV power only to create. Obviously, this energy will be used also for the desalination unit when it's needed, but it's not the priority. The priority is to create this stable microgrid. So, and this is for a little unit of 120 liter cubes per day. So imagine if we scale up to 1,000 liter cubes per day or 16,000. It can be very difficult to achieve this with a PV solar. No? On the other hand, we have these PV modules to supply the energy needed for the unit. Okay. At the same time, all these equipment must be communicated by any of the industrial systems, and this is not as easy as we can think, because all of the equipment are commercial equipment, and they are not all built to be connected with different mark equipment, with these different suppliers. So it takes time to do this configuration. It takes time. It's not as easy as we could think. What happens if we go with a large scale desalination unit? So this is the largest one in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia, in Al-Kahfi. So it's 16,000 meters cubes per day. It has a supply of 20 megawatts of solar, but in reality there is no coupling. The solar is injecting when there is irradiation, and when it's not, the grid comes in. But it's not the same idea as we shared before. So you see the size of the desalination unit is enormous. And all this is for the unit, the desalination plant, and for the PV system, but it's a part. It's not a whole system. Okay, let's see the data. This is the analysis data for the small desalination unit that I showed the first one. So for example, here is the time that we started the unit. So this is the line of high pressure consumption, high pressure pump consumption. And we have a little sun here, so this sun, and this sun is used to charge the batteries because we are not using for the unit. What happens here? We start the high pressure pump, we have sun irradiation, but we don't have enough to cover all the demand. So the most part is covered by the sun energy available, solar energy available, and the rest by the batteries. As the photovoltaic field production increased, we use it to cover the demand, and the batteries supply less energy, and so on. And the energy, as the solar energy is more available. As we go towards the afternoon, the irradiation decrease. So, and the batteries start. This is the line of the battery charge, level of the battery charge, comes the discharge. So they have less energy available. Where it comes in, there is a point that we don't have enough energy from the solar field, neither from the battery. So we need a supply. Who is going to give it? Either an engine or the net. here we do it with the grid, with the net, simulating an engine. So we need to choose to have a very good, as smooth as possible control system that is going to choose who and when is going to inject the energy that is needed by the system. So it depends on our system, the consumption needed, and it depends how we have the dimension our photovoltaic system. So it's a balance. We don't have always all the budget needed to have a good PV system or batteries that are expensive. So depending on the project, we need to adapt our production to the budget and the situation, the conditions. Here is at night. This is the period where we don't have the solar production. So who is giving the demand, the consumption, the energy? Either the batteries or the supply power. That's the engine, that may be the engine or the net. Okay. Here is another example where the demand is mainly covered by the PV field, and here the unit was operated during the night. Late afternoon, we didn't have sun. We had the opportunity in this period because it didn't work the nights before the unit, so the batteries were well charged to supply the energy when it was needed. It wasn't in this case. You see all the orange bars are the production of the engine or the micro. So, in resume, to conclude, in this system, we need to have a large view of who is going to use the water, what is our exigence for the users, how much can we produce, and our budget. How much money do we have? Because maybe we can, as the desalination unit is much cheaper than the PV system, we can build a larger desalination unit to produce only during sun hours and reduce, adjust more our PV system. So it's a balance. We need to have a large scope, a large view, think, share with the people that is going to use the system and decide what is the best one. And for sure, it will need to be increasing time.
Well, thank you very much. We have time for a few questions coming from people online or here on site. So if you have any question, now is the right moment. Is there anyone online who want to make a question?
Thank you, Javier. Wait, Andrea.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always very interesting to see how this system works. I just have a curiosity about the energy consumption. Because I guess even if the unit is powered by PV, you still need to minimize the energy consumption. Which is the specific energy consumption of the
Okay.
unit, typical one?
We can between 2 and 3 kilowatts per meter cube.
Nowadays, we have achieved to lower that specific energy consumption below 2 kilowatt-hour per cubic meter. Later in this morning, we will visit our Desarrollo 2.0 project. We have this achievement, lowering that number.
And it treats seawater.
Yeah, yeah.
From beach wells. Or...
No, the seawater intake is made by beach wells, and in this specific energy consumption, we include the intake, the pre-treatment, and the aero filters, not the pumping of the treated water. We'll see it later.
Thank you.
So within that, there is also some reflections to take before dimensioning the system, because in the same we are going to use the system in Mauritania, in an isolated place, or here in Las Palmas, no? Because we can dimension our desalination unit with energy recovery system or without, or even within energy recovery system, we can choose the best one or more robust another one. So we need that happens to us in Mauritania. We discuss, are we going to put recovered energy or not? And if we do it, which one? Because maybe you reduce the energy, but you won't have anybody able to fix the pump with energy recovery in place. So there are
And another curiosity, which is the operating pressure of the system?
in between 55 and depending on the salinity.
The goal we met with that project as a Road 2.0 is to work with a low membrane flux. So we are working around 54 bar.
And this is why you succeed in.
That's one of the reasons we have such low specific energy consumption. Apart from other.
And the last question, which is the flux? Lowering the flux up to which value?
14 LMH,
Okay,
between 12 to 14 LMH.
thank you.
So thank you so much, Javier, for your presentation. Now we are having our colleague Guillermo Zaragoza from Plataforma Solar de Almería that will talk us about beyond state-of-the-art of membrane distillation.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning, everybody here and online. Okay, this is the index of the presentation. It's quite a long one, but Tony will tell me when to stop. It's in decreasing order of importance, so it's no problem if we cut down the end. I'm going to focus on the first part, which is the use of vacuum enhanced air gap membrane distillation for brine concentration. And also I would like to talk about specific designs for coupling with solar energy. And if we have time, we will see other innovative applications of membrane distillation which go beyond the state of the art. The big advantage of thermal desalination systems for brine concentration is here, whereas osmotic pressure increases almost linearly with the salinity, fish salinity, the vapor pressure increases much less. So thermal desalination technologies are less sensitive to the increase of fish salinity. And we propose to use vacuum enhanced air gap membrane distillation. We've already seen that the effect of vacuum on the air gap, which is extracting the air from the gap, you see how the flux increases in a short envelope module. This is the difference between the modules is the residence time. In the AS7, there are 6 envelopes with 1.5 meters long channels. In the 26, much more membrane surface and longer channels, but also twice the number of channels. So the residence time is much larger. So the specific thermal energy consumption is much less. But as you see, the effect of vacuum increases the flux, especially in the long module. You see here at high salinities, there is a much more influence of the vacuum, and that this reflects on the specific thermal energy consumption, which in air gap is crazy. At 4 molar, it's very high, but with vacuum, it's much achievable and always less than in the short module. So that's why we choose this module for vacuum enhanced air gap membrane distillation. We see how the flux decreases with the salinity, and there is a range where we cannot operate. We actually don't get a flux. We could see here, there are some gaps, and this is because the driving force is gone. with the increase of salinity, the vapor pressure decreases, and we run out of water before. So we need to operate at much larger feed flow rates. And specific thermal energy consumption as an effect of the flux decreasing with the fluid salinity, then specific thermal energy consumption increases. And we have an interesting effect that this links with the previous presentation in the first fast track school. This is the typical behavior of membrane distillation comparing the flux and the energy efficiency. This is the so-called trade-off. The conditions that give a good energy efficiency, like a high GOR, gives you the lowest flux. And if you increase the flux, then you decrease the energy efficiency. So high feed flow rate means high flux and low energy efficiency, and minimum feed flow rate is high energy efficiency, low flux. As the salinity increases, this tendency changes. And for high salinity, we find that we have conditions that increase both the flux and the energy efficiency. And this is very important for the operation of membrane distillation with high salinity. And how do we reach this brine concentration? Operating in batch mode, so recirculating the feed. It goes out and then goes back again, so it keeps concentrated because the recovery ratio in membrane distillation is low. It's typically not more than 10%. So we need to recirculate to achieve higher concentration. And here we need a heat supply from the solar thermal field, and we need to cool. We need to dissipate the heat of this brine before entering again the membrane distillation system, because here it's acting as a coolant. So we need a cooling flow. If we buy the seed, then we'll see water as a cooling source. Otherwise, then we will need an active cooling system. Okay, the test we have done in stationary conditions of temperature, keeping temperature constant, and the feed flow rate, the maximum, because it's what guarantees that high salinity, we're going to get good flux and good energy efficiency. And of course, the feed salinity is increasing. We start at 75 grams per liter. And along time, permeate flux will decrease and the specific thermal energy consumption increase as an effect of the feed salinity. And we see here how the flux decreases. We're comparing, okay, here I said the flux, the feed flow rate is constant. Actually, we are selecting why. This is the reason why we chose the largest one. We see that the flux is much larger than at the low feed flow rate. And the specific thermal energy consumption is also lower. You see here how at the beginning, for low salinity, it's better to operate at low feed flow rate, but as the salinity increases, it's better to operate at high feed flow rate, the change of the trend that I showed before. So we see here the common point is 136 grams per liter. Above 136 grams per liter, then it's better to operate with a maximum feed flow rate. And this is the scheme of the plant. The feed volume, so we have a fixed volume here, and it's decreasing as we recirculate the feed. But we also consider a semi-batch operation. So we add an external feed tank to feed, so always keep the tank full. So we decrease the decrease of salinity. So the salinity, the increase. So the salinity increase is lower. We are buffering it by having the semi-batch operation. And this is an interesting thing we did previous to the experiments in Evora to see whether this would be a good strategy for brine concentration. And we see, okay, it decreases the increase of salinity with time in semi-batch, of course, because we are adding fresh water to the tank as mixing it with the brine, or not fresh water, I mean feed water, the 75 grams per liter. And the flux, a long time, okay, this is with salinity, and a long time also, with time we see that experiments take longer because it is a much longer time to reach the final salinity, and then we have more flux, more added flux. But of course, this is to check the permeate flux with salinity is most. So
there's not a big difference. The difference because of temperature, but it's not a big difference between batch and semi-batch. And the specific thermal energy consumption on the semi-batch is kept lower a long time, again, because the salinity increases slower. And comparing with salinity, okay, it's more or less, it's a big, the error bars are large, but it's more or less the same for batch and semi-batch. And the cumulative specific thermal energy consumption, again, kept lower in semi-batch. And this is because of the flux, because as you see, the thermal energy demand is very similar between batch and semi-batch. So the difference was that the specific thermal energy consumption is divided by the production, by the flux. So the results, if we want to reach a final salinity of 196 grams per liter, we see that in semi-batch, we have more or less the same specific thermal energy consumption that in batch. We produce more, but then we also need much longer time. And if the goal is to produce a certain amount of permate, then we see that we reach that amount in lower time, in less time, with the semi-batch operation and using less specific thermal energy consumption. Although the final salinity is lower, again, because we are buffering it. So it's interesting to consider this semi-batch operation for brine concentration. It takes more time, but depending, if we want to recover more water, then this is a good way of doing it. And okay, this is now a comparison with osmotically assisted reverse osmosis. This is the results, real results obtained experimentally for the vacuum enhanced air gap membrane distillation of this specific thermal energy consumption operating in steady state or the cumulative. And the specific electric energy consumption as well was calculated, and it's always less than 0.5 kilowatt hour per cubic meter of electricity. And this is of thermal, this is cumulative, specific energy consumption a long time and as salinity is increasing. And compare with osmotically assisted RO, we do it in terms of levelized cost of water for a certain values of price of electricity, 0.007 US dollars, and 2.5 cents of dollar per kilowatt hour of heat. And we see when the feed salinity is seawater, and of course, osmotically assisted RO is better than membrane distillation. For 70 grams per liter, if the recovery is low, again, osmotically assisted is better. But as the recovery increases, for high recovery, or when the feed water is 125 grams per liter or more, then we see that levelized cost of water for membrane distillation is lower. The reason, well, here comparison of the different elements, the membrane capex, the membrane replacement in osmotically assisted RO, you see that the electricity is not, energy is not a high element. In batch vacuum assisted air gap membrane distillation, the large bulk of the cost is thermal energy. So it's very sensitive to the specific thermal energy consumption. If the cost of energy decreases, like very low, cheap electricity and very cheap heat, that would be more or less the waste heat, then membrane distillation is much favored than osmotically assisted RO. And it's more, we wins in much more often situation. If we increase the cost of energy, we increase the cost of electricity, but the impact of the RO was not as strong as the cost of heat on the membrane distillation. And for this cost of heat, then membrane distillation is practically never competitive with osmotically assisted. We need to go to very high recovery ratios to be competitive with the osmotically assisted RO. But this is calculated with simulations. We don't have real data of osmotically assisted RO when we did this comparison. Okay, another alternative for brine concentration is, you remember that there was low recovery ratio in air gap membrane distillation, even with vacuum assisted air gap membrane distillation. we can use vacuum multi-effect membrane distillation. The multi-effect, you see here, there are 4 effects. So water is squeezed, the feed water is squeezed 4 times. So it's much more recovery. This is state-of-the-art technology, the Aquavera unit. We evaluated this compared with the rest. All these are the spiral wound modules, comparing the flux and the GOR, and we are here with this 4 effect unit. So very large flux, but the energy consumption, of course, is 4 effects. It cannot be a goal larger than 4. We will need to increase the number of effects to reach the specific energy consumption of the long residence time spiral wound modules, but we have a very large flux comparable to the short air gap membrane distillation spiral wound modules. So, okay, this merits a comparison for brine concentration in this scheme. And this is what we did in the Interbat European project that is about finishing this month to treat high salinity brines from a mine effluent. And it was a combination of reverse electrodialysis and membrane distillation, but I will not get into detail of this project. You can find it on the internet. I want to show the experiments with this vacuum multi-effect membrane distillation with 4 effects, and the permeable flux versus GOR. Well, it's not very impressive, really, for LMH. And recovery ratio was really impressive. We could reach from 35 grams per liter to reach 230 grams per liter in this unit. So yeah, well, considering this, then we look back at the flux, and it was not that bad if we are reaching that high end salinity. And the goal now is to, well, first, why this low flux? Because the membrane is resistant. So now we have, we're going to eliminate the membranes, and because the membranes at the end are separating the phases, so we can operate without membranes. That's the next step. And we have already tried with graphene oxide to improve the membranes for having less resistance to fouling. And this is a work done by the University of Manchester, adding graphene oxide layers to membranes and doing, well, this is a test with how the usual fouling experiments, having 72 hours. How are we time?
You have 15 minutes.
All right. A long test of a long run of 72 hours, and then rinsing with hot water and 30 minutes is the typical experimental fouling. And with PVDF membrane, the Durapora commercial membrane, we see we have foulants, of course. We have humid acid and paraffin oil, and then we see the membrane is, the flux decreases because there is fouling. With PVDF, with PDA, then, okay, more resistant, but still, you see a decrease of the flux. And with the graphene oxide, the flux is kept more constant. So there is an increase of fouling resistance using the graphene oxide, and the flux decay due to fouling is mitigated. Okay, there's some membrane wetting, but membrane wetting is irreversible. So this is what is going to be tried in the next months using this facility of the Interbat project. First, the graphene oxide membranes, and meanwhile, we will work in changing the module to a membrane-less module, so we can have less resistance. So it's more like a multi-effect distillation plant. It's based on thin layer operation. Okay, this is the summary of the conclusions of the tests. With graphene oxide, we see the flux is larger and kept quite stable a long time. But this is what is important in our context. So, using solar energy, we want the highest thermal efficiency of membrane distillation. And here we are comparing the different membranes, the polyethylene membranes, which is the standard membrane used by the Aquasteel modules, the PVDF membrane without the graphene oxide and with the graphene oxide. We see an increase of flux constant for air gap and also for vacuum enhanced air gap, a decrease of the specific thermal energy consumption, quite significant for the vacuum enhanced air gap membrane distillation, and the salt rejection factor is also increased because one of the things of the vacuum assisted air gap membrane distillation is to see that there is a slight decrease of the salt rejection factor, because there's that's the effect of the pressure, right? I mean, on the other side, there is a negative pressure that pushes a bit and goes against the liquid entry pressure of the membrane. With vacuum, with graphene oxide, this is mitigated, and we can keep the same salt reaction factor as in air gap. So that's another advantage of the graphene oxide coatings. And this is upscaled. I mean, to do the energy analysis, we upscaled from the other ones using a 375 square centimeters module. Okay, beyond multi-effect, vacuum multi-effect membrane distillation, this is another concept. Here, the memories are kept, well, the memories are gone as well, but this is not thin film evaporation, just without memories. We're using cartridges, which are hydrophilic. So the idea is that these cartridges, which are textile material, act as a wick to promote the thin layer evaporation, and they can fall as much as they want. It will not affect the production much, and they are disposable because they're just cheap cartridge material. And it's a 4-effect unit that we have recently installed at PSA, and we will evaluate this concept of 4-effect vacuum multi-effect. Right, we call it membrane distillation, although there are no membrane, but the principle is similar. And for treating high fouling solutions, maybe highly concentrated brines, but also some industrial waters that have foulants. Okay, upscaling membrane distillation. The largest plant, well, it's modular, so it's not a mystery on upscaling, so I can go fast with this. The largest plants are 33 cubic meters per day in the Arabian Gulf. Seawater, there were large, with MEMSIS, with the vacuum multi-effect membrane distillation, there were large facilities. There was a 60 cubic meters a day plant in Emirates, but this is already decommissioned. And with hollow fiber modules, this is a funny story because Korea wanted to have a large membrane distillation plant, but with their own technology. And they only can build hollow fiber modules. So they have this very large plant, 400 cubic meters per day with hollow fiber modules. They don't have internal heat recovery, so the energy consumption is crazy. They have covered it with with steam ejectors to recover some part of the heat, but it's not really feasible. They have good fluxes, but the energy consumption is very large. Yeah, they have. They operate with vacuum and thermal vapor compression. Okay, coupling a membrane distillation with direct solar heat. There is a lot of work now advancing state of the art on this concept. That has the advantage that you save on solar collectors and you reduce the thermal losses of membrane distillation. So the idea is that the membrane the feed water is heated directly by the solar radiation. So you integrate a membrane in a solar collector. And this has been done with several configurations: vacuum, direct contact, air gap, or even vacuum-assisted air gap. And also with hollow fibers. This constant, this is with evacuated tube collectors. We introduce a membrane in an evacuated tube collector, and then you have, this case is vacuum membrane distillation, but you can have it also with direct contact. You have the membranes inside, and this is an evacuated tube collector. Well, in this case, not evacuated because there is liquid inside. So this is like a CPC. The problem here is that the solar collection area is restricted to the membrane area, and the velocity required for heating in a collector is much lower than the optimum velocity at the membrane surface. So there is going to be a problem if you operate at the velocity to reach the temperature that you require. Then the polarization, by operating a very low velocity, polarization on the membrane is going to kill you. And if you operate at the right velocity to avoid the polarization, then you don't have physical time to heat up the feed. So the solution, you need to extend the collection surface without membrane to have some preheating and then reach the membrane surface. So you're not really avoiding a collector because the membrane is not, it's only one part of the collector. So that's not really saving. And you're losing the capacity of buffering, which is the big advantage of having a separate solar field with a heat storage tank. You can buffer the feed and operate at constant or more stationary feed temperature. And this is a big advantage that is gone with the direct solar membrane distillation. So I think, okay, there's a lot of research going on that, but I don't think it has good prospects, and we should stick to our concept of having a separate solar field with this and a separate membrane distillation operating at their own optimum conditions, and then the interface, which is a heat storage, a heat exchanger, and the heat storage that allows to play and optimize the operation with and get the most of the solar field. And okay, another interesting concept in is coupling membrane distillation with heat pumps. Why? Because we need, remember before, we need heat and we need cooling. So okay, we can integrate a heat pump. In this concept, you have solar energy and the cooling required for the membrane distillation. So this is an absorption heat pump coupled with a membrane distillation unit. And operating at a high temperature, this is an absorption, it produces electricity and it produces cooling. But in the process, there is a condenser and absorber, and that is coupled to the membrane distillation. So here we have a cooling source for the membrane distillation, and then it goes here, it's heated in the absorber, and comes here. So we can integrate a seawater desalination system in this solar power absorption heat pump that produces electricity and chill water. And this is a very interesting concept, especially when you're not by the sea and you don't have a cooling system for your membrane distillation. And okay, some results of the distillate production and distillate flux and the cooling produced and the power along the year. So there was this paper includes a feasibility study on this concept of integrating heat pump with membrane distillation. And there are also the concepts of solar absorption cooling. Chemical absorption has been proposed for solar cooling using saline solutions regenerated by thermal desalination technologies. And here liquid desiccants come into play, and we have used them for evaporative cooling and regenerated by membrane distillation. This in the concept in the context of the seawater greenhouse. We did a theoretical study of using a liquid desiccant and regenerated with solar-powered membrane distillation. The problem is that the solutions that work well as a liquid desiccant are those with the lower water activity and then require the highest energy for membrane distillation. So there is this problem, like okay, calcium chloride and magnesium chloride, you see them here. Low water activity, low flux in membrane distillation. Whereas when the water activity is high, like sodium chloride, then you have a much larger distillate flux. So it's not the perfect marriage, but it's something that can be studied for liquid desiccants. There are other alternatives for solar cooling combined with membrane distillation that we could study. And then we stop here. There are these applications of membrane distillation for regenerating industrial solutions and for hydrogen production, green hydrogen. But I think we saw the green hydrogen in the first edition of the course, and the industrial wastewater. Sorry, Alma, who worked a lot on that, but I cannot present it. And this is the people that have worked on these topics of this presentation. And any question, I'll be happy to answer.
I have the one question. You have concentrated the information like you try
Yeah.
in the presentation. I wanted to ask you, about perspectives. So how do you see the possibility of further reducing energy consumption? In memory distillation, there is a driving force, a temperature driving force, which somehow limits the lowering of energy consumption. Is there any hope that new membranes or new configurations may help reducing this driving force to enhance efficiency?
Well, the module, I think with the vacuum enhanced and the long residence time module, there's not much more that can be done in terms of improving. Memories can improve, but they will mitigate the problem with high salinity of the salt reaction factor being low. But in terms of energy, the memories do not play a strong role. What can be interesting is getting rid of the membranes and seeing these multi-effect systems without the membranes, because then you probably can have more effects.
But then you go to normal MED.
Yes, but it's a plastic, a small scale, plastic made, and scalable MED. So it's the same concept. But so that can be a progress. What is left is, okay, I think the energy consumption is very low already in the modules. The problem is to operate them with solar energy. That's where the research needs to go. How? Because in the nominal operating conditions, the gore is already larger than 13, 14. Okay, it decreases with salinity, but temperature is key. You need to operate at 80 degrees Celsius, and doing that with solar energy is not trivial. You need to manage well the heat to be able to operate at maximum temperature as long as possible. Because if you decrease the operation at 60 degrees Celsius, then the production is not as good.
So you would suggest focus more on the
on the coupling. Yes, the coupling operation, the module design. I think what is left just in terms of fouling resistance and scaling, and in terms of energy, there's not much more that can be done. I think. I mean, we cannot expect. We can expect incremental improvements, but not a drastic improvement. But on the coupling and the operation, there is a lot to be done.
And I have another curiosity. When you show the experiments with the graphene oxide coated methods, these are performed, I guess, once through where, I mean, specific energy consumption was very high.
And the module is very little.
And my question was, did they perform an experiment with standard configuration in order to see whether these improvements?
Yes, but it's done in a laboratory module. The configuration is standard, so it's
small.
But it's small. Yeah, it hasn't been upscaled to a commercial module. Now, we had a European proposal to do that with the University of Manchester and several, but we did not get it, the project. So that's pending. Yeah, the technology is there to upscale the graphene coating, the geo coating to commercial memories and make modules out of that. But the funding is required.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Guillermo. Next presentation will be given by our colleague Isabel Uller, de Plataforma Solar de Almería. The title is Beyond State of the Art of Solar Water Treatment Integration of Technologies for Wastewater Regeneration. So I see that she's now sharing her screen.
Good morning.
Okay.
So, can you confirm me that you can hear me properly and see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. because I just to let you know that as I'm sharing the screen, I cannot see you. So if you have to interrupt me for anything, just let me know, just in case the presentation stops or whatever. So good morning, everybody, both online and there in presence in Canary Island. I'm so sorry not being there in ITC. I hope I will have another opportunity to be there because it's something that is lacking in the history of my professional life. So as Tony said, I'm going to speak to you a little bit of something different, not desalination, maybe not brine, and more related with water treatment. And the idea is to give you a little bit of vision state of the art in wastewater treatment technologies, but I will try to give you an example at the end of the presentation on the integration of technologies for a complete scheme of wastewater regeneration. First of all, just to give you a little bit of a scope, because so I like always to give a broad scope of where we are. It's clear that the water availability is crucial not only for the production for agriculture or tourism, but for all kind of production. And all of us know that we require water also for the production of energy. But of course, when we are speaking in the south of Europe and also maybe in Canary Island, and agriculture is quite important. And 70% of the water consumption, fresh water consumption, is going to the agricultural sector. And in the case of not only because of the water scarcity problems accelerated by the climate change situation, but also because of the bad quality of water that we have in the north of Europe. Nowadays, we must see wastewater not like a waste anymore, but as a new source of water. So we are going through the linear economy model to the circular economy model regarding the water sector. And that implies to take into account different actors, of course, not only from the technical and economic point of view, but social engagement and the institutional and regulatory framework is also highly important in this issue. Just to let you know that there is a new circular economy action plan launched by the European Commission, in which they connect the agricultural, industrial, and municipal systems, in which the water is everywhere, let's say. And of course, with water reuse in agriculture, there is included in the food, water, and nutrient product value chain. In this new plan, so it's highly important. To speak about that, something that you all know, that there are a lot of barriers that avoid us to maybe widespread the use of reclaimed water in agriculture. There is technological, economical, institutional, and social barriers, but there are a lot of actions that are done to overcome these barriers. But again, I would like to draw your attention in how important is education, not only regulation, but also social education and public participation in this as important actions to overcome these barriers and to achieve finally the water reuse or the wastewater reuse, at least in Europe. But for that reuse, we all know that we have water microbial contamination that we have to tackle. It is not only what we all know about the presence of bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and all of us know the stomach problems and the cholera problems and regarding E. coli and the presence of these water pathogens when we use the wastewater as a water source. But there is an important let's say threat, which is the antibiotic resistant bacteria and genes. This is highly important now for the World Health Organization, and that is that there are a lot of genes translocating this resistance to antibiotic to other bacteria, and this is highly important and even it's very difficult to eliminate this resistance to antibiotics in the water. But we have also the chemical contamination. This is only an example of several contaminants that we can find in the outlet of municipal wastewater treatment plants. And of course, they are present in nanograms per liter, so they are present in a very, very low concentration. But we have different risks that we have to take into account if we want to reuse the treated wastewater, urban wastewater for crops irrigation. And there is a point in the health risk assessment that is highly important. Actually, what we have nowadays is a new regulation of the minimum requirements that for reusing treated urban wastewater in crop irrigation from the European Commission. But there is a new water framework directive that is being launched, in which the microcontaminants are already taken into account. Nowadays, only the Swiss law is implementing these limits in the contaminants of emerging concerns in the outlet of municipal wastewater treatment plant, but it's going to be something general in Europe in the next months, and it's going to be implemented in the next years. So we are going to speak about the the new technologies beyond the state of the art. So first of all, the definition of water treatment is the process or integration of processes that allows us to reuse the water. Could be for drinking water, could be in the industry processes, in medicine, but we have to take into account and in mind that we have to eliminate both pathogens and microcontaminants if we want to reuse the treated wastewater. So these are, let's say, physical removal technologies, and some of them are state-of-the-art, like coagulation, flocculation, filtration. There are a lot of new and beyond the state-of-the-art in the membrane technologies, mainly in photochemical membranes for taking the advantage of having nanofiltration membranes with some photocatalysts on them, just to allow us to do both things at the same time. This is the nanofiltration ability, but also the elimination of contaminants of emerging concern, microcontaminants and pathogens, thanks to the activity of the catalysts. And then we have also, in the state of the art, we have chlorination, ozonation, UV disinfection. This is what we all know. Even solar water disinfection can be also considered nowadays a state of the art, because it's approved by the World Health Organization, and it's highly implemented in South Africa and also in other countries in South America in isolated areas. But there are others that are more focused on the combination of UVC and ozone with other oxidants and other advanced oxidation processes that are not state-of-the-art, that are beyond state-of-the-art, and we are going to speak a little bit about them. The thing is that there are some disadvantages coming from these, let's say, conventional technologies, maybe mainly chlorination and ozonation, because we have some organic matter inside as part of the treated wastewater. We can have, or we can, with this technology, we can produce some intermediates like trihalomethanes, and that can be carcinogenic and could provoke a highly health risk if we irrigate with this treated wastewater and these trihalomethanes inside. So we were speaking in there are things that we already mentioned, or I already mentioned in the first fast track school, and as the presentations are available, I'm not going to enter a lot, but I would like to remind you that in the case of heterogeneous photocatalysis, when we are speaking about using semiconductors and nanomaterials that are activated by the sun to produce the radicals, mainly hydroxyl radicals, that are going to destroy the contaminants that are going to inactivate the pathogens, there are a lot of new materials that are being synthesized, trying to improve the efficiency of the titanium dioxide, even trying to make it active in the visible part of the solar spectrum. The next presentation, I think it's going to be in deep on this, so I'm not going to enter at all, just to leave you some examples on these semiconductors, nano semiconductors that are being developed in nowadays. But the thing is, just to let you know something that I also said in the first fast track school, there is not yet any new photocatalyst developed or synthesized that is with better performance than the titanium dioxide. So let's say that the future in the heterogeneous photocatalysis would be the immobilization of these photocatalysts in some supported materials that allow us to use the nano photocatalysts without supported, so we wouldn't require to remove it and wouldn't maybe be like another let's say another thing diluted or in suspension in the water that we have to separate. We have been working a lot with also, it is not only titanium dioxide, but also maybe iron in a serovalent shape. And we have been, there's some people working in trying to give a second use of some wastes, in which maybe that some wastes that are rich on iron that can be used as serovalent iron, working as a heterogeneous phase. Here you have it in a nano, I don't know if I can use. But in the left-hand side, you have the serovalent iron in nanoparticles, but you can also put them in a mesh, which would be supported, and we are working on that now. And you can put it inside the tubes. In this graphic, you can see the CPC photoreactor, and in the middle of the tube, you can see the mesh. So the idea is trying to make use of the serovalent iron properties for the degradation of contaminants, but support it in a mesh in this case or another supported materials. We have some preliminary results on this mesh performance for the elimination of sulfa-methoxazole, which is a contaminant, and which is included also in the purity contaminants for the European Commission list. And here we are using persulfate also to activate also the serovalent iron and trying to improve the performance. So the important thing in this kind of supported photocatalyst is that you can reuse them, or the ability to be reused without the removal of the catalyst and the support material. And in the graphic below, you can see the reusing of this mesh by 4 cycles, and well, more or less the efficiency is maintained. Another advance, or let's say step forward, is what is the state of the art, or it's the use of oxidants for UV systems that are already installed in the wastewater treatment plants, or new solar systems that we are going to speak, or solar photoreactors that we are going to speak a little bit more later. So the thing is to, if we add hydrogen peroxide, even chlorine or persulfate or peroxymonosulfate, we can produce other radicals that are not only hydroxyl radicals, like sulfate radicals or chloride radicals, that can be even maybe not more powerful than or more energetic than hydroxyl radicals, similar, but they could be more stable in the water, and so we can have better results in a medium long-term side. So when we use, maybe as I was telling you before, chlorine or UVC, which are the state of the art and what the technologies that are commercially available, we can produce these toxic intermediates, or like thialomethanes, allocetic acids, and they are carcinogenic. But if we combine the solar energy with this UV, with the free chlorine or instead of UVC, or when we add like persulfate or hydrogen peroxide, like oxidants, we can eliminate this trihalomethane, so these intermediate products, as soon as they are produced. So we go further and we can improve this kind of systems. Always thinking on what is already installed in the wastewater treatment plants and taking advantage on what is already installed, which could normally is UVC and ozonation as tertiary treatment, or nowadays already quaternary treatment for disinfection. Here I leave you some results also in the treatment of, this is simulated wastewater treatment plant effluent, could be simulated or real by using this kind of oxidants, could be in the first case the persulfate. And in this case, we can eliminate both the microorganisms and the contaminants. I will speak to you more about the iron ADDs, the ADDS after, because this is another new, let's say, new technology or improvement of the technology. And we have here also results when we use solar and free chlorine. And of course, chlorine is widely used in the wastewater treatment plant, so we can combine it with the solar energy and eliminate the contaminants, and also we can inactivate the pathogens quite highly efficiently. Here we have also to think about the possibility of regrowth that could happen when we disinfect. Think that when we are reusing the wastewater for crop irrigation, we are going to storage the treated wastewater, and even we have like a maybe long distance in piping from the quaternary treatment system to the irrigation system. And in that process, we can have regrowing of bacteria, and this is why nowadays we still need to use chlorine or some oxidant to have some residual effect to avoid this regrowing of the bacteria afterwards. There is also some advances or improvements in the solar photophantom system, this is homogeneous photocatalysis. We have iron and hydrogen peroxide, and so we produce hydroxyl radicals in the bulk of the reaction in the water. We don't need to separate anything because this is not a heterogeneous phase, it's homogeneous phase. The thing is that normally photophantom process is optimum at acid pH. So when we are thinking on applying photophantom process for the elimination of microcontaminants in the effluent of a municipal wastewater treatment plant, thinking on reducing the pH for then increasing the pH afterwards, it seems that there's no sense on this on using this oxidants. Like a hydroxide, sodium hydroxide or acid, which would be like an extra cost for the reagents. So if we use like a complexing agent, like could be EDDS, but here I leave you some of them, could be EDDS and TA oxalate citrate. There are a lot of used in the and tested in the publications in the bibliography. We can trap the iron and avoid the precipitation of the iron at neutral pH. So then we can apply photophantom process at neutral pH. The thing is, yeah,
you have
yeah.
5 minutes left.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the thing is that if we do like that, then we have to take into account that we can let's say feed the microorganisms also with ADDS. So this is why I leave you some examples in the right-hand side. So let's go faster then. I wanted only to mention that like electrochemical treatments are also beyond state of the art. And there are a lot of on this because if you have chloride again in the water and sulfate, you can also produce other radicals. There are a lot of examples in the bibliography, but if you are interested, you can contact me, but I haven't put anything here. Just to let you know that the advance of the state of the art in the photoreactors, there are, like you can see in the right-hand side, like multi-step cascade photoreactors that are open photoreactors. The another advanced photoreactors, my colleague Lena is going to speak to you about, so I'm not going to enter here. But I wanted to speak to you about the raised wave pump reactors that mainly that comes from our collaboration with the University of Almeria, and these are low-cost photoreactors that can be easily used when you want to treat with solar energy and some oxidants in a bigger scale and with less cost, big amounts of water, of effluents of a municipal wastewater treatment plant. Just to finish with the example I told you, I leave you. I'm not going into deep, just for those that are interested, you can contact me after, but this is a demonstrated project in which we, with Esamur in the Murcia region in Spain, have put it like a demo site, focused on the integration of 3 systems and a flow anaerobic sludge blanket system, vertical and horizontal wetland, and then the raised wave pump reactor for the quaternary treatment. So these are some pictures of the facility, and here you have also the raised wave pump reactor for treating till 5 cubic meters per day of water. These are the contaminants and the microorganisms that we have followed, and this is quite new. I leave you only the results here to let you know which are the pathogens that we have inactivated. The oxidant that we have mainly used is hydroxyl, so hydrogen peroxide to produce the hydroxyl radicals. This is the pictures of the wetlands and raised wave pump reactor. We have obtained the elimination of more than 80% of the contaminants of emerging concern, and we have attained also the disinfection process. And I leave you here the results also, but it's only mainly to let you know that we have the effective treatment and no regrowth of bacteria after 48 hours of stop. This is our group members, so I thank you the project, the European project, also the CBC project of Aquacycle project. Thank you very much. And any question, I'm ready to answer.
Is there any question?
Maybe it's far away from the knowledge.
Yes, Andrea is going to question.
Then someone will have one question to me.
I don't know if I can hear you properly, Andrea.
No, Isabel. It's
Hi.
Andrea. Isabel, I'm not an expert in this field, so my questions might be a bit full. The first one is, again, about perspectives. First of all, is there a kind of design criteria or other design criteria in terms of, for example, milligrams of removed contaminant per square meter of collector? And if so, are the numbers, figures for the current collectors and target figures for future scale up and full scale implementation?
Yeah, as you, it is a very good question, Andrea. So thank you very much. As you know, there are not so many ISO rules or protocols good established yet for in the wastewater or reclamation wastewater world, let's say, or field. But yes, we have already a lot of demo sites, and we have already that numbers. And we can, if we are already establishing the target of microcontaminants and pathogens to be eliminated, and even which is the amount of oxidant that we will require. And also we have been working in semi-batch, semi-continuous flow. So we can say that nowadays we are ready to upscale the system. Of course, when we are speaking of solar energy technologies, we cannot think on big cities and to have a solution for a very, very big wastewater treatment plant. This is in the case of solar energy as for the quaternary treatment, it would be in a small scale system, or isolated areas are highly perfect for the Canary Islands, for instance. But then we have also the numbers to improve the commercial systems, as I told you, like UVC and ozonation, and how to improve them, and which would be the maybe extra cost to reduce the dosage of UVC and ozone, which are highly costly, and to attain the targets, to achieve the targets.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you to you.
So thank you very much, Isabel. Thank you, Andrea, for your good questions. The last presentation before our coffee break will be in charge of Raúl Quesada from University of Las Palmas. He will be presenting new photocatalyst generation for water treatment and hydrogen production.
Good morning, everyone. You will notice that I had the wrong first slide, which is always a good start. Because I think it's the number 2 now. But,
Never mind.
So we're not part of this consortium. So I recently joined Professor Toña's group in photocatalysis in the University of Las Palmas here in the north of the island. Yeah. And we've been asked to come and speak a little bit about photocatalytic materials for heterogeneous photocatalysis, as Tita will introduce now in this last talk. Basically, there is this romantic idea of using the sunlight to promote chemical reactions that have to do with sustainable energy and environmental applications. So not only water treatment, but also air and so on. You can use it also to extract toxic metals from water, and all these beautiful ideas that became I think very popular in the 70s or so, with this idea of being a promising technology, which I think has been, Toña will correct me, but it's been promising since the 70s, I think. And the whole, I think one of the main reasons is the challenge of efficiency. And efficiency is everything in this business. The engineers can develop their technology, but the material itself has to be efficient enough to deal with the problems that you're trying to fix. So hopefully you won't really learn anything from this, but the main thing with the photocatalysts are semiconductor materials. So they have what is called a valence band for every atom in there. The first step on this step in photocatalysis, on this process, is the photon absorption. So photons have to be absorbed, and what that means is you will promote an electron from the valence band in the material to what is called the conduction band. So basically you activate materials, and the conduction band will be like a highway in that sense. And so the photon has to be of enough energy for this electron to go to jump that bridge, what is called the band gap of the material. And that actually defines quite a lot of how efficient the material will be and what kind of electrons we can harvest. Once you get that step done, then there's going to be charge separation. So you will have what is called a free electron running in the material, and it leaves behind a positive hole as well. Those two charges will be separated efficiently, hopefully, and then you will have diffusion of those charges that are created somewhere in the material up to the surface of the material. You have a negative effect in here, which is those two charges have to diffuse and not meet at any point. That's going to be the charge recombination. If you have high charge recombination, then you don't have free charges anymore. There's not going to be any reaction. The charges will hopefully go to the surface, be trapped there, and then participate in what is called charge transfer, so they can participate in the reactions that you're interested about. So
this whole process has to be done in an efficient way, and it is actually quite challenging to do. The main thing here with that energy for the photons to jump in that band gap is that actually the most efficient photocatalysts have a quite large band gap, and it means that only high energy photons can be collected. In this case, titanium dioxide, which is the standard photocatalyst, can only absorb photons in the UV range. So if you see, we were talking about solar radiation here, solar photocatalysis. Actually, only around 5% of the photons in the solar emission spectrum are UV photons, ultraviolet. There's a lot of the work that has been done in photocatalysis in materials strategies to try to reduce that band gap and then being able to harvest photons in the visible range, which is about 42% of the photon emission spectrum. There's been actually quite a lot of strategies done to manipulate materials to try to take advantage of this low energy photons. These are the typical examples, if you want. So doping was mentioned also in Isabel's talk. What it does is they introduce stepping stones in that kind of bridge. So the photons can use it to jump, and then so you don't need that much energy anymore to reach the conduction band. There's loads of them. So you can play with the stoichiometry of materials to try to reduce those band gaps, because they are affected by the chemistry structure and all these properties. You can use also dyes on the surface of the materials that can absorb visible light photons and then transfer them into the semiconductor. So there's loads of these kind of strategies. Heterojunctions are actually very popular. There's two different materials, two different semiconductors that join together. They both hopefully absorb electrons, or one of them at least does. And what they can do also is separate, so that kind of charge separation efficiently, the electrons and holes, so that you can have them in different places and there's no repropagation. So you increase the photocatalytic efficiency. So all that is, in terms of energy, is what it will be required for the material, and it's a big challenge already, but there's also other challenges. So you will need to make your material, for example, robust enough. When you play with band energies, it happens that if you reduce the band gap, the chemical bonds become weaker, and then your material will be more susceptible to degrade. And that's actually a big problem. Poisoning and other problems involved in this process. Mainly, the main reasons why we don't have an effective photocatalytic technology already going on, although there's good enough for what we have, thanks to the engineers, obviously. So there's two things that they ask, or if I could have a chat about. I mind you to speak about photocatalysts. There will be, I will probably need 3 hours to go into each one of these sections. But if you're looking at water treatment, there's two things that we're kind of interested in. One is water splitting, so that we can obtain hydrogen and use it as solar fuel, and water treatment, so we can actually need clean water, decontaminate, disinfect water. So on these two sides, you will see actually there's a different input in terms of the effort. If I tell you that I can use photocatalysis to create a solar fuel, which is energy, and there's a lot of interest behind it. And I tell you, you can also use it to clean water. These days, we're very aware that of the scarcity of fresh water. So it's becoming more and more of a challenge and a problem, and more focus on this subject. But there's a lot of effort that has been done in the last 3-4 decades on hydrogen evolution, and you can see that in the efforts that they have put on the engineering of materials. So it's called also artificial photosynthesis, is splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. You can see here the two main equations together. So there's an example there of band gaps. If you see in the diagram, you see titanium dioxide here. The photons, apart from having enough energy to jump that band gap, they also have to have enough energy to develop, produce this, or participate in these reactions as well, what's called over potential. So you'll have to, you have for each of these reactions, you have like a value in energy that you have to overcome as well. So together with the energy, you will have also issues with kinetics. So I can tell you now that for hydrogen, there's been enough research, and we have reached very, very high efficiencies. I think 96% last time, not from pure water. So they use scavengers and so on. And then for oxygen, which is the other side of the coin, you'll have here that there's actually a problem with kinetics. Moving those 4 electrons is not quite easy. They have been, so they use like a value based on solar to hydrogen efficiency in order to establish a rank, and that actually has helped a lot in this field. It's very easy to base a value when you have one reaction, so the water splitting that you want to do, and very particular conditions in there. You will see that most of the recent active materials or efficient materials fall actually below 3%, even 2%. It's only one of them that goes a little bit high up there. And you can see that they have been more and more creative. So there's some TiO2, dope TiO2, and so on, so, but you can see that they have moved in the last decade or so. Yeah, they have moved to a lot of different materials in there. There's actually one example of efficient production for hydrogen in here, which is actually the same paper, right? That they claim efficiencies of 9.2% in the lab, so that's with intense lamps, and 6.2% for concentrated solar in there. I actually give you a bit of this flavor as you will see the example for hydrogen in there. I will tell you, I will show you. I didn't know there was sound, but I will show you what they're doing there. It's actually rhodium chromium oxide in there in the supported by on Indian gallium nitride substrate. That's for the hydrogen evolution, and then there's also cobalt oxide for oxygen evolution. You can see the filter light in there. You can see all these bubbles. Don't ask me how do they do this in terms of separating the hydrogen and the oxygen. It looks like they evolved in the same vessel. And certainly the materials, both sides of this hydrogen and oxygen, are all on the same kind of nano needles, nano wires, they call it. You can see there the changes in band gap as well as you dope gallium
nitride with indium, and is actually there's actually heat involved as well. So they say that there's an optimum temperature at 70 degrees, and above that temperature, apparently, you enhance the recombination of hydrogen and oxygen. The test lasted 74 hours, sorry. And after that, the catalyst deactivates. Actually, they lose rhodium and cobalt on the process. So the stability, obviously, of the material is very important. It looks amazing to be able to say we're reaching 9%. The theoretical value for this is actually 10%. So beyond 10%, apparently, there's the technology can be brought to commercial purposes, out to real applications, if you will. But obviously, if your catalyst only lasts a few days, then maybe not. That's what it is. On the side of water treatment, the thing is far more complicated, not only from a chemical perspective, but also because there's not a single reaction, there's not a standard method. So everybody does whatever they want. They degrade whatever chemicals. Isabel was talking about pharmaceuticals. You can use whatever it is, degrade compounds in any condition. So there's actually, you won't see that kind of a nice graph with who's the best and all that kind of stuff. TiO2, after more than 50 years of materials chemistry research, is still the only commercial material. Solar treatment is almost abandoned in the sense that direct solar light for degrading organics that are complex is pretty much done. But there is now more and more efforts to do this. TiO2 is very, very popular, as I said, and it's very popular because it can form these oxygen radicals or hydroxyl radical and so on. So species that will actually attack any organics that deposit on the surface of TiO2. So it's not a direct transfer, but actually uses aggressive species on the surface. This is a bibliometric graph that I didn't know about. It looks amazing. I don't understand it, but it looks great. And it shows actually what's the interest a material has been in any periods of time. So this was done from 2017. They said actually in the paper that since 2008, the interest of the TiO2-based photocatalytic water treatment has gone from like 9 to 114 papers. I thought it was more anyway, but it is what it is. So this kind of graphs you can use to see how does it move, if you want, what's the area or what's the field, how does it progress? And you can see that it's a complete mess. So it's probably what it is in reality. So I didn't find a single paper that I would be excited about on water treatment. They've done all sorts of things, the doping on the TiO2, they've done everything with TiO2. They have included TiO2 in this graphene oxide for filtration, and they have incorporated into many, many, many things, and nothing really comes up as hugely interesting, except for this. I actually quite like this. Not because it works, it's because it's fun, obviously. And it actually, they created this in Nature Communications. They created these robots that activate by light. Hopefully works. And you can see light on, they move around, they do all these things. These guys are very, very serious. So they actually check even how do they move, where it is within 15 seconds and so on. So turn off the light, they stop, turn on the light again, and they go all across. So they have a magnetic, they use ferromagnetic properties as well as photocatalytic properties to
ideally to move around if you want and clean the water, so helps this mass transfer, and then you can collect them back again with a magnet, basically. They do say micro robots autonomously move in water under irradiation, while a magnetic field precisely controls the direction. I don't think that was very precise, but it looks fun and cool. So hopefully these kind of works will come back or will continue. Basically, you can see here, it doesn't really matter. You can see here how the efficiency of the degradation for this dichlorophenoxyacetic acid works. As I say, it's a very good excuse basically to develop these kind of ideas, and that's actually, from my perspective, the most advanced engineering in water treatment that has nothing to do with hydrogen evolution so far. So that's actually from last year. So I'm hoping that the area will then kick off basically. Nothing else. Yes. Thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Raúl, and thank you, José Miguel Doña and his research group for collaborating with us in this FASTA school. Are there any questions?
We've got a demonstration tomorrow at uni if you want to join.
Yeah, we'll tell them later.
Use language.
Any questions?
Has everybody signed the attendances? Yeah, no one missing. It's important.
It's going to be really exciting. You will love it.
So now we're going to have a 30 minutes coffee break and see you after that. Thank you very much. So Dominic, you want to say something about the gender equality survey?
Well, if you want to answer it, then I will send it by email again.
Okay. So now we're going to continue with our FASTA school. We have 5 more presentations until lunch break. Our next speaker is my colleague, Ángel Rivero. He will be presenting beyond state-of-the-art of seawater reverse osmosis desalination brine polarization, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tony. Welcome, everybody. So I'm gonna talk about beyond state-of-the-art seawater reverse osmosis desalination brine polarization. So getting a little bit more into practical knowledge and pilot plant results from what we saw in the previous FASTA school, which was more focused on theoretical technologies. So this is going to be the content, just a brief overview of the disastrous lab and the brine polarization testbed that we're going to see later on today and tomorrow in depth, the people that are in group 3. And then we're going to just go through the pilot plants that we have that belongs to this brine polarization open testbed, the power osmosis, the nanofiltration, and the ORO, the osmotically assisted reverse osmosis brine concentration plant, and finalize with our roadmap for the near future. So the disastrous lab, I'm just going to be very quick here, but it's fully equipped public-private system, and it's formed from ITC, the Society of Economic Promotion Gran Canaria, the 2 universities, Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, and La Laguna, and the agency,
the research agency of the government of the Canary Islands. And it's been running since 2017, and it's a leading hub of skills and innovation in desalination and water energy nexus. The infrastructure is mainly located in Gran Canaria and Tenerife, but also in the west African coast and Cape Verde as well. So let's talk a little bit about the generic brine valorization process diagram for those people that were not in Fast Track School 1. This is just a quick overview of what should be a brine valorization process diagram divided in 3 phases or 3 stages that usually are necessary for an overall brine valorization process. Starting with the pretreatment, where you use it to purify your brine, mainly to get rid of these divalent, multivalent ions that will reduce the efficiency of the further steps. But also you can obtain some byproducts from this pretreatment stage, which makes it a crucial and very important stage in the overall scheme. Then you have the concentration, where you treat your purified brine and concentrate as much as you can, because usually your energy consumption in this stage is going to be lower than in the conversion stage. So you produce more water, hence increasing the overall recovery, the overall water recovery of your system. And at the same time, what you do is the conversion system works with a higher concentration, so you work with less volume, making it more efficient. And then you have your conversion stage at the end, where you generate could be energy or some byproducts, which is what you really want to obtain in this primarization diagram. And then you can have low salinity brine discharge, or you can have even more fresh water at this stage, maybe zero liquid discharge system all around. So these are just some examples, technologies applied in the 3 different stages. I'm not gonna go in depth with this, because this is what we saw in Fast Track School 1. We were talking a little bit about each of the technologies. This is our current brine valorization process here at ITC. So we have our water intake from beach wells, pre-treatment inside the seawater reverse osmosis system. We can actually have 2 different brines, or 2 different RO brines. It could be from our pilot plant that is a 40% recovery rate, or we also have access, actually, from the beginning of this week, I think, to the commercial desalination plant that you're going to visit later on today, Tony. So that's a 2-stage RO pilot plant. So the recovery rate is about 55%. So that makes it very interesting, because we can cover all the range for all our technologies. It's not just that we can work with real brine, which is very important for proving that the technology works and to optimize it, but also we can work not only 2 different brines, but all the mixture. So we can work since 40% recovery to 55 and anything in between, which is very helpful, and it's going to increase a lot the results that we can produce in the near future. So this concentrate brine, the RO brine, goes through the nanofiltration stage. We have the nanofiltration plant, which I'll show you later on. And this nanofiltration is going to divide the input stream into 2 output streams. One with is rich in monovalent ions, and then the divalent rich stream. At the moment, we have no valorizing the divalent rich stream, but you will see later on that it's going to be one of our main focuses in the near future. And you will have a presentation from Andrea Cipollina and also Giorgio Michele, they are gonna talk a lot about how to valorize this divergent rich stream. But we're gonna be focused on this presentation, the motivated rich stream that goes to our brine concentration system, the osmotically assisted reverse osmosis. Already Guillermo presented some theoretical results before, so we have a pilot plant here. I think, not sure why, it could be the first one in Europe actually, like a real pilot plant working with real conditions. So at the moment, with this 40% recovery, water recovery on the COE water reverse osmosis pilot plant, we can achieve a total water recovery about 65 to 75%, and a concentrated brine, like if we, the seawater is about 37 grams per liter, we can achieve 170 to 250 or nearly 250 grams per liter using this water plant. So this is how it looks like, our brine valorization open test bed, and this is what you're going to see then later on. So we are here at the moment, and this is the commercial desalination plant, the two-stage from the Mancomunidad Sureste that you can visit, our row 2.0, and then this is the brine valorization open test bed where we have our pilot plants, the nanofiltration, the seawater gas osmosis, the brine concentration plant, and we also have a forward osmosis plant that we have. It needs to be installed because it was initially somewhere else. So we just brought it here last week actually. So we're gonna see it tomorrow, but it's not connected yet. So just what we are aiming with our brine valorization open test bed is it's not just for us to develop all the or try to develop and optimize the technologies and like do our own research, but also we can offer services inside the brine valorization open test bed, and we have different desalination brines. Anybody with technologies that want to test it with under a real environment can come here and test their pilots. Research area where we can locate these promising and disruptive technologies. Simple and fast installation. We have a brine discharge permit, support service for entrepreneurs and also innovative companies. And then, well, renewable energy, high qualified technicians, and tax deductions. Our objectives are boosting R&D with a high level technical location, focus on applied research, but using actual desalination brines, brines from different types of brine, engage companies with pre-market solutions and helping them thrive. And then also promoting our testing site for international and private project proposals. So that was the introduction. Now we'll talk a little bit more about the pilot plants and what we are actually working with them. So our forward osmosis plant was the first pilot plant of forward osmosis in the Macaronesian area. We work with two inlets. The draw solution is a real raw brine. It could be one stage or two stage, and we will evaluate that now because we have now the access to this two-stage RO. So there will be more results to come in the following year. And then the feed solution is an effluent from secondary treatment wastewater that comes from a wastewater treatment plant. So we're using both real solutions. The last test was real, but then tomorrow I will be in depth about what kind of problems we've had with the commissioning, and once you start the design of this pilot plant, and then once you start operating and wanting to change a few things, and yeah, you will see a lot of changes that we've done so far. So the preliminary results that we have achieved is an increase in overall water recovery of 20 to 30%, reduction in the discharge volume about 73%, integration circular economy concept, using two actual waste streams or on the wastewater from the effluent of the secondary treatment from a wastewater plant, and then the RO brine, which is also waste nowadays. We're working to change that. It is what it is. Then we can also say that the FO is working as a pre-treatment of the RO because you have another barrier against contaminants and also less fouling due to the low pressure operation in the forward osmosis. So it helps cleaning, let's say, the water that then will go to another reverse osmosis plant. And also improve water for agriculture, since instead of going through a tertiary treatment directly, we already are eliminating 50% of ammonium, 88% of nitrogen, and more than 90% of sulfate and boron. These are some pictures of the pilot plant that you will see today. So we are looking also to increase the research infrastructure in the Canary Islands. We are not only operating this from the Canary Islands Institute of Technology, but also the University of as far as the Gran Canaria is involved. And several students have come doing their master's degree, thesis, and I think 2 or 3 of them. So that's the idea also, to try to increase this research infrastructure in the Canary Islands. Sorry, then obviously we have synergies to explore, not only with wastewater plants, but also with biotechnology. We have another department here at ITC, which is biotechnology, and we have a project in mind that they can make use of the concentrated secondary effluent. And then, well, I don't have a scheme, and it's difficult to explain all the connections, but it's quite an interesting project, and we would like to maybe next year to start working on it. And this is just, well, some of the results obtained with water recovery. I must say that all these results have been achieved, sorry. Have been achieved using synthetic aerobrine, because we have the capabilities of getting the real aerobrine where it was located before. But now that we come here to ITC, we will start working with real aerobrines. So water recovery, draw dilution. So remember the draw inlet was the seawater versus osmosis brine. So it's how much the percentage of dilution of which is one of the objectives of the pilot plant. And here we just have some results of water flux and salt reaction. Well, I'm not going to go into detail. It is good results compared to what it's supposed to be. So we are in contact with the manufacturers. We have actually a collaboration agreement. So they give us feedback, and we start projecting the results, and it looks good. Thank you very much. Nanofiltration pilot plant, as you all know by now, memory technology and separation of monovalent and divalent ions, or purifying, let's say, the brine. It's a pre-treatment in a brine valorization process that reduces this risk of failing and purifies the sodium chloride content in the percentage of the total dissolved solids that belong to sodium and chloride ions in the monovalent rich stream. And also concentrating the divalent rich stream, the ions that are target, like for example, the magnesium, which is a high value metal that is one of the critical raw materials in Europe. I'm sure that our partners from the University of Palermo will speak a lot about this. And also there are no residues generated, so you have two potentially valorizable If that exists, I don't think so, but I think you understand me. Streams. These are some pictures of our pilot plant, and since it's a research and development pilot plant, we wanted it to be as flexible, as much flexible as possible. So we have variable feed flow from 3 to 6 cubic meters per hour. We can use different configurations on the number of membranes. We can use 3 or 4 or the 2 tubes in series. That makes 7 membranes. At the moment, we're using Torre membranes, CSM, and we are actually having new membranes coming to be tested by the end of the year. So that's very exciting. We have different brines as simple as I mentioned before, the one-stage RO and the two-stage RO. You can see the difference in the composition. And we can regulate how it works by changing or selecting different recovery values and different percentage of the diverted recirculation. So what we did or what we thought in the design was to make it as flexible as possible to achieve different results under different circumstances. Okay, I think I've talked too much. Chemical composition of the NFE, this is the arrow brine that comes from our arrow plant, pilot plant. Okay, these are some of the results. We can see the applied pressure between 10 and 18 bar and achieving recoveries from 40 to 70%. Recovery meaning a motivated flow compared to the feed flow. These are the changes in the conductivity. The feed is stable because it's the same feed. And then the motivated stream was very stable as well, whereas the diverted was going up. It's a robust system with replicable data, low energy consumption, considering that we are not using any energy recovery device at the moment, but it will be used in the near future. We are already working on that area, and we know that we can use some devices that are being developed for low pressure and for low flow, which is going to be very interesting. These are the results that we have achieved. Usually, the content of sodium chloride in the seawater is about 85 to 86%. So we have achieved nearly 98%, and we're hoping to increase that value with the new membranes. These are the values of the diverted ions rejection, with usually sulfate is very high, always more than 99%, but also a high rejection for magnesium, 94%. Calcium is always a bit lower, but it's higher than we have seen in many papers and other pilot plants, which is very interesting. So we have a high purity of sodium chloride and other pilot plants we've seen, and we've checked increased reaction of diverted ions and a better selectivity between those monovalent and diverted ions, which is the main target of the pilot plant. Then we have our brine concentration system. These are some pictures. I'm not going to explain how it works because we explained that already in Fast Track School 1 and we don't have time. But we can say that the system is a high recovery system. We obtain 75 to 85% water recovery, which if you combine it with the seawater reverse osmosis, the overall water recovery of the system can be nearly to 75%. And we apply only a pressure of less than 70 bar in an arrow system. We just work with one high pressure pump, and well, there are some boosters, but no consumption. This is the disposition of the 3 different stages inside our container. So it contains an arrow membrane system that actually generates more permeate and acts as a pre-concentration. And then it goes through the different stages where we recycle some of the concentrated brine to allow the pass of water, the water flux. And that's why if you see the difference in colors, this difference, osmotic difference, is the same as this one, the same as this one. That's why the system works with only applying the sedative pressure, unless, for example, high pressure reverse osmosis, which needs a lot higher pressure, like higher than 125. So the description, we can go from 1.3 to 2.4. We have one schedule 3 regulation. How we regulate the plant? We can regulate it by the pressure or the percentage of the concentrated brine that we recycle back into the system. These are some of the results. This is an actual test result that we performed some months ago. So we could see that the system takes about 2 hours to stabilize, and after 2 hours, it's pretty constant. And we can see how the diluted brine reaches and overcomes the feed brine at the input of the system, and the concentrated brine, in this case, achieved about 220, 225. This is the composition, again, 97.8 solid and chloride. And this is, as I said before, our regulation points. So we can regulate the pressure, we can regulate the percentage of the recycle, and playing with those variables, we can achieve these areas, and usually all the results stay under this curve. This is the specific energy consumption of the process. You can see 3 different graphs because we thought it was very important to explain how you calculate this energy consumption. So the first one is if you just consider the arrow and ORO system inside the container, so nothing else. This is the energy consumption, which is the high, well, not high, but higher if you achieve obviously higher concentrations. So the more concentrated, more energy you require. If you add the nanofiltration system to it, because usually what you're going to have is the arrow brine, and then this is the energy consumption, and then the global system from the input to the outlet. This is the energy consumption required. And I'm just going to finish with a roadmap. Well, this is what we get now. I think we have explained this, and I don't have more time. So our roadmap for NF, we have a magnesium and calcium inline analyzers from Hatch, and we have a collaboration agreement with them. We're going to do a lot of research about this, analyzing on site of what we're going to, and how any change that we do to the system affects to those specific values. We're going to use the 2-stage arrow brine as feed. We're going to test new membranes. We're going to focus also on the NF dynamic valorization and doing long-term tests. With the OR system, our brine concentration system, we're testing different feeds, long-term tests, energy recovery device implementation, solving a problem that we have, or an issue that we have with high temperature when you want to reach high concentrations, and then the anti-scale optimization. And in the global scheme, we would like to explore an extra purification stage, finding the optimal configuration to minimize energy consumption, and optimal arrow design for variable brine compositions. And also, we're going to launch a new tender next month, hopefully, about a new conversion technology that will close the cycle and that will produce some valuable products that can be used in the Canary Islands and are needed. So stay tuned, because we're going to launch it soon, just in case you want to participate or you know someone that might be wanting to participate. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have some questions, please.
Questions?
Very, very good presentation. Out of curiosity, what does higher think of the results that you get for the responsibility assisted are they happy?
We actually received an email from them the other day because they asked for the full set of data. So we shared our full set of data. They replied because there was a mistake in one of the columns. We swapped the title. And I did ask them for the feedback. So we're just waiting for that. But
I say because in the presentation that I've seen they give, the figures they give are how you really get practically.
I'm not sure. You have to try to see exactly what the figures say because.
And who's giving the figures as well.
Yeah, because we have checked with some results that they have given us before, and we're not far from what they're getting. We're not. It's just maybe the way it's displayed. That's why I think it was very important to making sure that you are talking about this when you do the SEC, and then when you include the manufacturing or when you talk about the overall system, and then it depends on what you think. Because, I mean, the target of the OR system is not to produce more, it's to concentrate the brine for further stages. So then it's also there.
And your specific energy consumption is over the permit.
Yes.
In terms of
permit.
cubic meters of permit.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably we need to think about that and define a different specific energy consumption
Yes.
related to the real purpose.
Totally agree. Totally agree. But in order to compare to other technologies, there is no simple way of changing. Once we incorporate the crystallization process at the end, then obviously we'll change everything to talk about energy consumption per ton of sodium chloride crystals, or which is I think more realistic way of evaluating how much it costs.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Arthur. Now we're going to continue with two more presentations dealing with this interesting topic, primarization. The next presentation will be given by our colleague Giorgio Michale from University of Palermo. He will be presenting beyond state-of-the-art of brine treatment processes for raw materials recovery and zero liquid discharge. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony, and good morning to everyone. So we have already started this discussion. It's been just introduced by the previous speaker on brine valorization. I will be showing basically three examples that are related to three different research projects we are involved currently, and I think they will provide different possibilities. For sure, we know very well what is the problem of of brine resulting from the desalination process, from seawater reverse osmosis desalination. It's quite large volumes that are produced, larger than, of course, the desalinated water. So this is quite important to take into account, and maybe even the fact that with a, let's say, a specific look at our Mediterranean basin, this is going to affect significantly what is happening in the Mediterranean area. Well, the three projects that I'm going to briefly summarize for you are the circular mine, coordinated by University of Palermo, the water mining project, and derive-wise. I will go in a very straightforward way directly to the first project. The first project actually focuses on a specific kind of brine that originates from saltwater rather than from seawater reverse osmosis process. I think it's very interesting because it can be easily coupled with desalination process. So no matter for the time being to explain what is this resulting brine, so-called bittern from the salt production side. Sicily has got in Trapani a typical example of such natural process that depends, of course, on a specific condition of the location. I mean, there should be the presence of wind, the presence of sun, and typically in many areas in the Mediterranean, these conditions occur, and thus I think it's something very frequently present in the Mediterranean. So the idea is that you start from this, let's say, natural sea salt production sites, so from the evaporation salt work, and what you get at the end of the process after you produce the table salt is a mineral-rich bittern. This mineral-rich bittern, of course, is very interesting. It's got a very high potential for valorization. Particularly, the magnesium content is very high. But beyond that, so magnesium is by far the largest component present in to this solution. You can go and further focus on other elements such as lithium. So you can start an operation in terms of lithium extraction or other elements. The point is that for this process, of course, these different processes, you are in need of some, say, reactants. And for this, you can imagine, of course, a specific step for in situ generation of these chemicals that are required. At the very end, by treating in a very sequential way this rich solution, you get the possibility even to valorize in terms of energy recovery by using, let's say, salinity gradient technology. But the most interesting thing for us is to see the relation between the natural process in the salt pond and the possibility to couple this to the desalination industrial process. So if you start from seawater, you see this is the end of the cycle. You may have a desalination facility, which gives, of course, rise to a concentrated brine that rather than being discharged, can be sent to the evaporation pond. And this, of course, will produce a beneficial effect on the evaporation pond because you have an increase in the production rate. And this has already been tested in a number of cases in the past. So this is the main concept of this process. So this will be a very quick overview. So you see that we start with filtration treatment. Then, of course, we have a specific technology that I'm not going to describe this very moment. Will be my colleague Andrea Cipollina in the following presentation. Will discuss and address this very interesting technology for production of magnesium. But we also have, in the consortium of this research project, other research groups from across Europe, Spain, and Portugal that have, of course, designed and worked a lot on these other process steps, such as the lithium recovery or the other elements recovery, minor elements recovery, such as cesium, rubidium, strontium, and cobalt, germanium, and so on, developing specific technology. One of the most interesting aspects, as I mentioned a moment ago, is the in situ generation of chemicals, which is fundamental if you want to have a real circular economy scheme. And this is done through the use of bipolar membrane electrodialysis. And for this, I think we will take just a few minutes within this presentation to illustrate how this technology works and performs. And at the very end, again, you can have still a further final step for the production of electricity through direct conversion of the salinity gradient into energy. This is just a short view of what was the installation site at the premises of the University of Palermo. So you see this is the laboratory that we have in our building, and you can see some of the say equipment and the different technologies. I think the treatment chain, of course, will require, for example, for the magnesium extraction, will be clear later on. It's a reactive precipitation step. So we will require sodium hydroxide. We will require also the use of hydrochloric acid. And for this, of course, the EDBM process, the possibility of producing acid and base with bipolar membrane electrolysis was a fundamental major step within this process. So I think I will ask Antonella, that is a postdoctoral, please.
Good morning, everyone.
To continue.
So as Professor Michele was mentioning, in the treatment chain of circular mine, we need to use sodium hydroxide or acidic solution in order to operate the different steps of the treatment chain and recover magnesium or other trace elements. One possibility to obtain or use this solution could be to use the industrial acid and base product. For example, sodium hydroxide can be obtained, can be both in pellets or hydrochloric acid that is sold in a very concentrated solution. And this solution, this reactant, should be before diluted in order to produce the solution at the concentration required in the process. This means that there are safety risks while handling this solution, but also energetic losses during the dilution and emission and cost related to the transport of this product. So why do we dilute this chemical, and why can we produce these chemicals in situ? Why not producing them? This is what we did using electrodialysis with bipolar membrane process. This is an electromembrane process based on the use of three membranes: an ion exchange membrane, cation exchange membrane that allow the selective passage of ions, but specifically bipolar membrane that allow to dissociate water into proton and hydroxyl ion under the effect of an electric field. And in the repeating unit of the process, we have three channels and the three membranes. Two of them fed by using fresh water that will become an acidic and an alkaline solution, and the third one that is fed with a salt solution, a waste solution can be also used, and will be desalinated. Interestingly, the unit can also be coupled with renewable energy in order to reduce the consumption. So in terms of the use of EDBM unit, we can obtain at the same time both the acid and the alkaline solution we need. We can produce the solution in situ. This means promote the circular approach in the treatment chain, and this can be directly recirculated in the unit. This will also reduce the emissions. Of course, there will be some drawbacks. Among them, we identified the specific energy consumption that can be very high, the water consumption, because two of the three compartments are fed with water, and the membrane cost, especially for bipolar membrane, that is still very high. During the process, we try to address this drawback and try to optimize or minimize the consumption. So the unit is very flexible. The process can be operated in a closed loop, recirculating the solution, in open loop, once through, and in feed and bleed by recirculating part of the outlet solution back and mixed with the inlet. In terms of performances, this is just an example of one of the results we observed. We are able to produce a solution of, for example, alkaline solution at concentration that exceed 1 molar. That is what we need or more than what we need in the process. In terms of efficiency, how efficient is the generation of sodium hydroxide with this technology? We were able to work at current efficiency close to 1, especially in the first part of the test in batch, and then current efficiency decreased to almost 70%. And in terms of specific energy consumption, again, the trend is opposite, so it increased with time, of course, in a batch mode, but very low value, close to 1 or below 1, were reached when working at low concentration. So that means that actually EDBM can benefit of working at low concentration because you will have lower specific energy consumption, but also very high current efficiency. During the process, we scaled up the units, starting with experimental tests in laboratory scale, by also develop and validate a model that was used to design the pilot that was then constructed. Here, a picture of the pilot. And tested, of course. As a main result, during the different experimental campaign, we try, as I mentioned, to address the drawback. And specifically here, we can observe a suitable region that can be in which the process should operate in order to reduce specific energy consumption that are related to operating cost and increase specific productivity related then to the capital cost, and that requiring a lower membrane area. And with this, I will give the floor to Professor Michele again.
So just to continue this presentation, I mean, the other project that, of course, implements interesting schemes beyond state of the art in terms of brine valorization is the water mining project. Some of us, of course, have been involved in this project in different case studies. This is a very wide project with wide focus on different aspects: desalination, wastewater treatment, and both in the case of an industrial area or urban area. And for the case, I will cut down this, but what I want to say that in the water mining project, one of the main case studies was in fact the implementation of seawater treatment chain with a specific focus on brine valorization. Let's say that the main focus, as we all know, is minimum liquid discharge. Minimum liquid discharge is an important aspect. So we want to increase, maximize, let's say, the water recovery and minimize at the same time liquid discharge. So the case was implemented in Lampedusa, as you see here, and we wanted really to take advantage also of the facilities that were available in the Lampedusa island. There was a thermal power station, so the possibility of waste heat availability from the power station. And on overall, the implementation of the chain was, again, to demonstrate possible scheme, possible circular scheme. And this is the best way, perhaps, to explain. So we start with nanofiltration, as it was discussed in the previous presentation. So we have seawater, and you have basically a permate which is rich in monovalent ion, of course, and this permate then is fed to NED desalination unit that is powered by waste heat coming from the power station. And at the very end, the idea of this NED is actually to produce distilled water, but to concentrate at a significant extent the brine. At the very end, we have a concentration factor up to 8. So the brine is very concentrated and then goes to evaporate ponds. But the right rate, then it goes to a reactive precipitation step for the combined recovery of magnesium and a mixture of magnesium and calcium in terms of the form of magnesium and calcium hydroxide. At the very end, we close the process with, again, bipolar membrane electrodialysis that is responsible for the production of the chemicals that are required. So this is a different scheme, as you see, with respect to the previous example, but again, we have this minimization of discharge, maximization of water production, and in situ generation of chemicals with minimum input from the external. This is just layout of the plants. We have very short time, but just to make you see that this has been, in fact, already implemented and installed in this small island in the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, key achievements. You see, so the main focus is on the nanofiltration, on the multi-feed black flow reactor, the crystallization step for magnesium hydroxide. And you see that the data that we collected allow us to say that the performance was overall very good. Nanofiltration rejection was very high for magnesium, and the stability of operation was fairly good. The operation will be illustrated later on of the crystallizers was also, say, very satisfactory. EDBM, as was mentioned a moment ago, reached let's say, acceptable performances in terms of specific energy consumption, and also the performance of the traditional MED unit with this special operating condition allowed us to reduce significantly the brine volumes with a concentration factor up to 8. Finally, last but not least, and I will cut my presentation, is another project, otherwise the ongoing project that, of course, involve many partners from across Europe, and it's again like the water mining project is very broad in scope, and in specifically, of course, the main focus again is water, the value that comes from water, the value that you find in water, from water and through water. So there's a lot of different possibilities and opportunities. The idea is to have, you see, within this project, demonstration sites, so 9 living labs across Europe, as you see from this map, and then there are also 3 different hubs: the Atlantic hub, the Mediterranean hub, and the continental hub. Within, say, the project, our contribution was for the Mediterranean hub, trying to implement a minimum liquid discharge scheme. And for this minimum liquid discharge scheme, I will ask my PhD student to say just a few words, since I've been involved, I think, in Tenerife. You were saying that is place of implementation. So if you can just briefly.
So this is the process description of the REWISE project, but in particular, we want to take the retentate from a reverse osmosis unit and concentrate it in solar ponds. A first ponds in which we can recover calcium sulfate and calcium carbonate, and a second ponds in which we can recover sodium chloride. After that, we have a solution with high concentration in magnesium ions, and we can treat it with alkaline reactant in order to produce magnesium hydroxide. This is the activity for the design of the evaporative ponds, and here we can see there is, during time, there is a zone in which there is no crystals at the beginning. After a concentration factor of 2.2, we have the precipitation of calcium salts, and after a concentrated factor of 6.2, we have the precipitation of sodium chloride. This is a schematization of the ponds that we design, and we operate these ponds in Tenerife. So we fill it with reverse osmosis brine, but also nanofiltration brine. And here we saw the first crystal that grow, and this is the results, the first results, in which we can see the magnesium concentration in the water that increase. And here we have the concentration of calcium that increase in a first moment. After that, decrease, of course, for the precipitation of calcium component. Yeah, I can. I don't want to do spoiler. This is for the next presentation, and ongoing activities for this project is the reactor operation and the SaaS production.
So just to conclude,
really
I hope this overview of these different projects provides also inspiration for further solutions to this problem. But for sure, what is interesting, I think, for all of us is the fact that through a circular scheme, basically you can achieve, let's say, a target for minimization of environmental impact, and at the same time creating interesting opportunities in terms of economical value. So the two things can go this time together. Usually environmental protection measures are seen as very costly without any added value from an economical point of view. But when you turn into these schemes, for sure you have this possibility that the two things, they work together in a synergistically way, and you may demonstrate that you achieve both an environmental target as well as an increased economic opportunity. So I think this is something that for us all is very interesting. So sorry for taking too much time, but of course we are available.
Thank you very much. Any question?
For sure, the presentation is in couple with the following one, so some of the aspects have not been illustrated and will be done later on. But if you have, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Giorgio, for the presentation. Very interesting projects. But I was going to ask you, what's next? What are you working on? What kind of new projects? What kind of what are you exploring now?
Well, we are at the moment we are still working a lot. I think it will be clear later on this opportunity. Okay, I'm just mentioning the fact that this is also an economical opportunity, but you need to demonstrate that the chain is as a market value. So, for example, let's focus on what will be described later on, magnesium hydroxide. Okay, so it's very important because it's very abundant in this. You have seen even in the Tenerife experiments how the increase of concentration. So it's you can produce large quantity, you can recover large quantity of magnesium, but then the market would ask to you, let's say, specific characteristics. So market specification is very fundamental, and what you produce must match the requirements from the market. So there is another part, and in fact, we have new projects at the moment working on this, let's say, chemical part. So, for example, you have to characterize the magnesium hydroxide that you produce, and which markets are you targeting? It's the pharmaceutical market, it's the food market, it's the flame retardants market. In fact, all the specification changes completely, and maybe you are closer to address one of these markets rather than the other. So I believe this is also very important, because otherwise it will be like an oversimplification. You produce something, but even if you have to produce tablets, you need to reach market specification. So for the time being, our projects and our next step and our efforts are devoted to this, to be sure that we also succeed in matching the market requirements in order to prove that this is an economical chain that can be brought to to market implementation. So it's very important, starting from research.
Might be some questions.
Oh, okay. So can we, Tony, maybe?
Can you please, Dominique, read the questions on the chat?
He's just asking about the presentations. They are going to be available on the website, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Tony, this is for all of us, I think will be okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Now to close this interesting topic on rimerization, our colleague Andrea Cipollina from the University of Palermo will be presenting the multiple feed plug flow reactor for selective recovery of magnesium and calcium from brines. So Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. I'll just stand up. It's easier for you to avoid to fall asleep. So good morning. And yes, I will basically continue the presentation given by Giorgio, Antonella, and Lorenzo, focusing on the crystallization of magnesium in the form of magnesium hydroxide. We developed in the years technology which is called MFPFR, which I will briefly show. And the relevance of this technology for us is also due to the fact that we are going to implement this technology within the salt-to-water treatment chain. And in fact, after the PVRO unit, the brine will be treated with this technology to remove calcium and magnesium before going to membrane distillation and recover some valuable products. Why recovering magnesium, which is the most valuable among the two? Because magnesium has been declared a critical raw material by EU, both for the very high supply risk and for the economic importance. And about the first reason, that's clear from this graph, because China is currently the main producer. They extract magnesium from mines, and it holds more than 90% of world production. So EU doesn't want to be dependent on China, China's import for this raw material. The story of the development of the Novis crystallizer is quite old, and it has focused on some main goals. Of course, the obvious ones: achieve high recovery of magnesium and calcium from the brine, guarantee high purity of the magnesium hydroxide produced. But the last 2 points are, let's say, less obvious. Triggering crystals growth and control agglomeration and aggregation are very fundamental phenomena, both in terms of what you will get at the end in terms of product, but also in terms of how you will separate the solids from the liquids. So we have done a lot of activities starting from the laboratory scale. Some of these slides were already shown in the first fast-track school, but I'm going to quickly repeat them for the sake of clarity. And we focus on, first of all, recovering purity. I mean, you're not going to read the numbers, but what is important is that in many of the experiments carried out, we demonstrated to achieve 99% purity in magnesium hydroxide. In some cases it was lower, it depends on the feed, it depends on the operating conditions. But in all cases, what was more difficult was to control the crystals, morphology, granulometry, and particle size distribution. That was a main challenge. So the question was, from what we have done, what have we learned? Can we control crystals morphology, granulometry, thanks to the different operating conditions? And these figures are quite explicit. If you pass from a certain type of crystallizer to another type of crystallizer, you can see from this SEM analysis and pictures that the granulometry is completely different. And the morphology of crystals is, let's say, characterized by very small nano-sized crystals, in this case, platelets, much larger platelet in this one. And look at this. This is the same picture of a commercial product. Actually, it is the best commercial product you can find, Magnifi. It is very expensive because it is used for special applications. And you see it is made of platelets. So much more similar to what we get with the second reactor. Of course, we cannot think of producing magnesium hydroxide in a small laboratory scale reactor. So we have to think about a larger scale continuous reactor able to perform as well as the large scale unit. And the idea went to the multiple feed plug reactor. It is a kind of plug reactor, but instead of injecting all the reactants at the inlet, we distribute the injection of the reactants along the length of the reactor in order to keep lower supersaturation and let's say slower crystallization in order to allow crystals to grow in a more similar way to what we have done in the best condition in the lab. So this technology was patented. We have a granted Italian patent and an extension which is under examination. And it also, let's say, triggered the constitution of our spin-off company, Resources, which is now accompanying University of Palermo in this development. Of course, the company is looking more. 5 minutes past. And the company is more focused on industrial development and applications. Now, after this introduction, examples of implementation of this technology. These were already shown in the fast track school, so it's just to avoid to lose pieces. The first real first implementation example was within the Zero project. The brine nature was a bit different from what we are demonstrating now. It is brine from regeneration water from ion exchange resin softening, so it's a brine very rich in calcium and less in magnesium. But the experience was positive. We could achieve very high recovery in both calcium and magnesium, but also quite high purity in the two products. I will not stop there. And I will not stop even in the water mining, which was already shown in the fast track school. But just to say, in the water mining, as Giorgio said, we focused on seawater brines valorization. And again, the use of MFPFR reactor allowed to demonstrate in a continuous phase, so for 8-10 hours of operation, that we can achieve very high recovery of magnesium, very high purity in magnesium hydroxide, and also very good removal of magnesium and calcium in total, with a calcium hydroxide purity which was a bit less because there is co-precipitation of calcium and magnesium at the end. But now I want to go to the activities that we consider beyond the state of the art, because they are activities very recent, never published, and let's say that are really pushing towards a different future of this technology application. The Circular Mine project was presented already by Rob. Within this project, we developed, let's say, we call it a second generation MFPFR crystallizer. The concept is very similar to what I've shown. There are differences in terms of residence time, for example, or some configurations that have changed in order to better fit with a different type of brine we are treating here. The bitter that we treat within the Circular Mine project contain up to 60 grams of magnesium per liter. Okay, seawater contains 1.3 grams per liter, and reverse osmosis brine contains 2.5 or less. So we are treating a brine which is 20 times more concentrated than reverse osmosis brine. We needed to developing something different in that case. And these are some pictures. People, apart from the technology, are important when we develop such projects. A picture of the crystallizer that has been implemented at Unipa premises, which is now at Resources premises in Travel. What I will show you are the results of two sets of tests to give you a kind of flavor of what it means to control the operating conditions. The first set of tests are tests with a very concentrated bitter, almost above 50 grams per liter of magnesium, and variable sodium hydroxide flow rates, so leading to different pHs. And the second set is very similar, but with a more diluted heat. We only have 24 grams per liter of magnesium in that case. It's worth mentioning that in all cases, calcium concentration is very low, basically almost not detectable, because within salts, calcium precipitates in the form of carbonates and sulfates. What we will look at are the settling velocities, filtration rate, and SEM images. Why? Because these are the features that were more difficult to control in conventional crystallizers, and let's say determine the economical viability of this application. Because if you precipitate magnesium hydroxide and you are unable to separate the solids from the liquid, then you cannot go to full-scale implementation. And this is the first example. Settling rates or settling velocities changing the operating conditions. You can see how big difference you can have from one condition to the other. And this is the reference settling rate that you can find in the literature. This is quite well known. It changes depending on the feed solution and on the operating condition. But what we want to show is that by using the MF technology in the optimized condition, you can reach a settling velocity which is 5 times larger than the reference one. And yeah, the difference in concentration can have also an influence. If you go to lower concentration of magnesium, you typically have higher settling velocities. And similar results can be observed also for the filtration rate. So compared to the reference filtration rate, we can achieve much higher values thanks to the new configuration, because also in this case, values are higher, but also thanks to the optimization of the operating conditions. And again, operating with lower concentration solutions, you can achieve higher filtration rate. And looking at the SEM analysis, is there a correlation between morphology of particles and settling rate or filtration rate? The answer is yes. As you can see, the sample, that is the central sample, that is the one that was showing the best performance in terms of settling and filtration, is also the one characterized by larger size crystals, larger platelets. Okay, while the worst one is the one showing the so-called cauliflower structure. It's a very well-known morphology of magnesium hydroxide crystal, but it is constituted by aggregates of very, very small crystals. And similarly, for the case of lower concentration magnesium, you can see that the best case is also the case with a morphology which is more similar to the best morphology we will get in the lab, so the platelet morphology. Second example, and I'm going to call again Lorenzo, because he was one of the main actors in this story, is the implementation within the REWISE project. In the REWISE project, there was again a quite complex integrated treatment chain for the treatment of reverse osmosis brine, with solar ponds being the first units to further concentrate, but also precipitate sodium chloride and calcium in the form of carbonate and sulfates. But then when we let's say, take a role for the reactive precipitation is this step. One last thing, yes, it is again the scheme you have seen it. So in this case, as in the case of the circular brine, our crystallizer will operate without calcium in the brine, but Lorenzo will show you the experiments also changing a bit the order of the units and anticipating the crystallizer.
Thank you, Andrea. So I already talked about this slide, so no, okay. This is the first generation crystallizer that we use. This is a scheme of the reactor, and after a post treatment, This is the powder of magnesium hydroxide that we produce. Okay, this is a master student, Vincenzo. During the installation of this reactor in Adeje, in Tenerife, the south of Tenerife Island, and okay, we did some tests with different brine and bitter. So the result is brine, nanofiltration brine, bitter, and bitter. So after the concentration of the brine in the evaporative ponds, and you can see the difference in concentration in magnesium. So 2 and 3 for the brine, and 26 and 48 for the bitter. So really different, and also in calcium, 1.2 and 1.15 in the brine, but almost 0 in the bitter. The first result is about sedimentation rate, and it's really different with the results that Andrea presented, because there is a different reactor. And here is high sedimentation rate for the brine, because the magma density, so the concentration of solids in the slurry is lower than in the bitter. There is really not so much fast. Usually, the filtration rate and the sedimentation rate have similar trends, but not in this case, because there are different residence times of the crystal inside the reactor, and different fluid dynamics inside the reactor for this test. So in this case, we have arrow bitter and then bitter that have a better filtration and worse filtration for the brine case. And this is because the residence times here is higher, so the crystal have a better growth inside the reactor. And this is the cationic purity. In this case, in the brine case, we have a magnesium purity of almost 91%, and in calcium about 7%. This is because there are calcium in the brine, of course, and in the bitter, no, because there is not. So it's important to have evaporative ponds in this scheme, because we can increase the purity of the magnesium that we produce. So thank you, and I give you the first one now.
Very quickly, just to conclude. So the recovery of magnesium from seawater brines is technologically possible and economically sustainable. This was demonstrated, not shown yet, but we have worked a lot on that. But the use of conventional reactors allows the separation of magnesium hydroxide up to high purity, but cannot allows the control of granulometry in all conditions. While the use of MFPFR technology shows a better control of the reaction conditions, thus allowing better separability of slurry and more controlled morphology of particles. And pilot scale activities carried out in different projects with different brine compositions have successfully demonstrated variability of this technology. What's next? Perspective within the Sol2 project. MFPFR pilot unit will be installed and operated in the pilot facility. It's a matter of weeks, no, Federico? and then we will perform magnesium hydroxide precipitation tests from reverse osmosis brine. We will characterize the performance of the system, identify the optimal operating conditions within this treatment chain. And we will also focus on what was not discussed yet, so the second precipitation step to remove also calcium in the form of calcium hydroxide.
assessing its efficiency, again, identifying best operating conditions. While the final result will be to have recovered these minerals and to have obtained a bivalent-free brine that will be ready for MB concentration and then salt production afterwards. Thank you.
A question?
Well, this is a question probably for Lorenzo. I was surprised to see that in Alefi, soil concentration was the same before and after the solar pump.
Let's take again that.
Maybe I'm interpreting wrong.
No, what happens, it's typically that sodium concentration increases, but then it stabilizes because it reaches the saturation. So it should not the same. I haven't checked these numbers.
Okay.
But it will not increase dramatically.
In the
the cation.
yes is the cationic analysis of the solids, and one of the first treatment of the magnesium hydroxide production is the washing, because we have to eliminate all of sodium chloride precipitate with magnesium hydroxide. So for this, we have a few sodium inside the crystals.
Okay, no, I thought you meant the concentration in the brine.
No, this is in the solid.
This is in the solid.
In the solid. Ah, right.
Yes.
And in the solid means the entrained brine still contains sodium and sodium chloride.
But it contains more or less the same in both cases.
Yeah, but actually that is very close to the detection limit of the
yes,
ionic
it is really close.
Not really relevant now. It means we cannot get rid of sodium unless we proceed with a lot of washing with water, but that is economically unviable. Now.
So any other question on this matter?
Federico, you said you wanted to ask questions.
I have a question. It's just since you are at your at your facilities, you are working with a lot of reactors or a lot of interesting things, and you foresee for the future to change for another type of reactor, or you maintain the idea to use the NF-TFR for all the studies that you want to perform?
No. The idea is to keep this technology. We have further improved it actually during the circular mine projects with the second generation reactor in order to, let's say, optimize some of the fluid dynamic conditions that we need to improve with BITEMs. But that will be the technology we are going to use.
Thank you.
Andrea, I say this goes back to goes back to the question, in the future and the production of something that will match the market. I think this second generation, this implementation are very fundamental, because you have to start since the recovery stage in order to ensure that then you can further process this product and try to have an available form at the very end after maybe even many other processing steps. So it's a very delicate balance that you have to keep in mind. So it's just to highlight how important, and I think whether you have to go into one specific market, could be flame retardants or could be pharmaceutical market, complete different type of morphology, granulometry, but you need to start from the beginning. That's why most of the effort So sorry, but just want to emphasize this aspect.
Okay.
Otherwise, you get nothing. No one. You get the product. No one will be interested in getting this.
Yeah, I guess it's a matter of finding first something that allows being economically viable, and then from there you can see or explore different perspectives. Because then, as we said, for different products, we'll have different stages. Because then, I guess trying and that is also economically.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Like matching the purity needed for the process. Thank you very much. Any more questions?
So one more, and it is related again from related to my first question. And have you found from the literature some of competitors that you have been?
In the literature, there are mostly laboratory scale analysis performed with conventional stirred reactors. And typically, the main issue is separation. So that in the graph I shown, reference value of settling velocity or filtration rates, they are much lower than what we can get. I mean, as you know, there might be industrially relevant cases where companies have developed their own technology, but this is not openly accessible in the literature. So there is an American company, Martin Marietta, that produces magnesium hydroxide from seawater. We don't know exactly the technology. It's probably a conventional reactor with huge settlers. What we know is that the quality of their product is very low. So they sell it, but they sell it for, let's say, low-grade applications.
I'm asking this because one time we saw about the oscillatory flow reactors. It could be competitive for some of
the what?
Oscillatory flow reactors.
I don't know. I've never seen it. Have you seen it applied to magnesium?
Not applied, but sometimes they say that could be competitive in some parameters with the multi-fluid blood flow reactors.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was asking if you someday you have someone knocking the door and hey,
no, but we will check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to the colleagues from UNIPA for the interesting research on this topic. The next presentation will be given by our colleague Rodrigo Felizardo, who will be explaining all the work done on the pilot plan installed within the joint research activity of the Sol2H2O Project. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Since the time it's been almost passed, so I promise that I will be short in my presentation. I will just present the project and what we will do regarding desalination in the project. Since already we have my colleagues spoken about the RO, the ND, and the MFPR that will be the main components of our system. So this is my agenda. I will talk about just a little bit from the project. Solar desalination at SER. SER is the Renewable Energy Chair. It's our institute. Solar desalination, our infrastructure, and the pilots at the end. So here, the main objectives, they are already more or less spoken about. So the project name is Sol2Water, and the objective is to strengthen the network between the partners and the coordination. It's a widening project, or is a Horizon 2020 project. So the goal is to improve the research profile to the valorization of the human resources and the infrastructural synergies. And this is a partnership between Plataforma Solar de Almeria, Universidade de Palermo, and Instituto Tecnológico de Canarias. So, as I said before, this is developing in the installation of renewable energy chair. by the unit of water production and water treatment. So the goal is, the project is divided into parts. It's water production via desalination and water treatment. In the part of desalination, this is the one that I'm inserted. So here we want to solar powered water production, zero liquid discharge solutions with a technological focus, with a hybrid system between a PVRO system, a vacuum enhanced membrane distillation, ambient units, and the brine treatment. It will be a sequence of the brine valorizations that pass from the subproducts of the first technology will be the input of the second one. So here we have more or less our infrastructures, that we have a PV fields and that can supply all the energetic demand from the pilots. So we have here more in small parts, we have each CPC field that will allow to feed the MD units for the evaporation part. So the goal is the conception, the design, and the construction of the solar field desalination with high recovery, with the goal of zero liquid discharge. Here on the right side, we have two reservoirs of 100 cubic meters, one with seawater, because we are not in the coast, so we will pick up the seawater at the coast, and we will use this amount to perform all the tests that we want to evaluate. So here we have the reservoirs, one with seawater and the other one with the permeate. And here we have the main control room and operation, that all the equipment will be inside. And we have the main tanks to storage the brine and the permeate. So here is the solar field that we have in our installations. So it's 4 rows. 2 rows are monofacials, and 2 of them are bifacial PV cells. So all the type of PV is monocrystalline. The difference is between the type N and the type P. The type N has more efficiencies than the type P, so that was what we want to study as well from the other team, the PV team, at the renewable energy chair. And the total power of these installations is 19 kilowatts. The heat supply, as I said before, we have a small CPC heat unit, so we have the ability to heat a thermal oil using the CPC, or maybe using a small resistance that we have inside of the control room. So here we will be able to maintain the same temperature along the test period, and we have as well a small heat storage unit that's with 32 kilowatt thermal, that will allow us to prolong our operation time, let's say that. So here is small image of the control and operation room. As you see, is placed next to the thermal part to minimize the heat losses and minimize the equipments that we have to implement to connect both systems. So this will be the flexible storage tank area that is already emptied and waited to place the flexible tanks, and this is the location. So here, as you can see, I have already described the heat supply, the control and operation room, that all equipment will be inside, the PVRO, the MFFF, and the MD unit. This is some of the main components that we already have at the local to start implementation the hydraulic connections and the hydraulic circuits. So here is more or less the PFD of our system. The goal is to treat one cubic meter per day of brine. So the first stage, it will be the PVRO, as the first presentation has showed the system. So the brine from here, it will be used to feed the MFPFR units, and the brine from the MFPFR unit will be the feed for the MD unit. The brine that results from the MD unit will be placed to evaporation ponds. This is as an example of image of evaporation ponds that we will place it in the infrastructure. So here is some of the characteristics of the equipments. The model that we have in our facilities is this one from AKSEP. The membranes are film tech membranes. Some of the characteristics, power consumption is 2.2 kilowatt hour per cubic meter. The capacity of produce 11,000 liters per day, but we will just work at 1,000 liters per day. This is temperatures, and some of the presentations before already explained the equipments. I will just repeat myself. This is the unit, and at the end we have the evaporation ponds, and this is the team that it will work on this topic on desalination. So it's all. Just to mention, this is the QR code. If some of you doesn't know the project, you can use the QR code, and we will be direct to the project website.
Are there any questions?
Okay.
So thank you so much, Federico.
You're welcome.
So we have arrived to the last presentation. This presentation will be given by our colleague Maria Elena Novais from University of Évora. The title of her presentation is Solar-Driven Wastewater Treatment, Pilot Plan Installed within the Sol2H2O Project. So, Elena.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. It is with great pleasure that I participate in this second fast track school. And yes, as Tony said, I will speak about the second pilot plant that is being described and assessed in the framework of the Sol2H2O project. In this short presentation, I'll just briefly describe the reactor design and its construction, and also as a general overview on the assessment of solar-driven wastewater treatment processes, and then specify it to the assessment of the saltwater photoreactor. So these activities are in the second work package of the Sol2H2O project. This is task 2.2 that is dedicated to solar-driven wastewater treatment. And in this joint research activity, the aim is on one side to improve and optimize photoreactors, taking into account parameters as the absorber, Q diameter of the CPC, or the agitation mechanism in raceway pond reactors, which are the ones that Isabel showed in her previous presentation. Also, to better fit the advanced oxidation process to be applied, the characteristics of the wastewater and the water quality design required depending on the final use. And another aspect is the combination with the PV systems for renewable energy supply to the electrical parts of the solar photoreactors. So in this presentation, I'll focus on the first part, which is the improvement and optimization of the CPC type reactors. So stemming also from previous projects like the Air4Water and the Sphere 3, we have already designed, constructed and installed a pilot plant for a solar photoreactor that uses solar energy for wastewater treatment. It is installed in the solar concentrators testing platform that you can see here in the figure. And it is installed at the University of Évora facilities in southern Portugal. So this reactor, it consists in a tubular photoreactor with a very high path rate that we will see further in detail. It is placed with an inclination of 40 degrees to maximize the energy absorption, and it is installed south-facing. It has a total capacity of 150 liters, and from which 62 are illuminated, which gives us a ratio of 0.42. It operates in batch mode and with water recirculation. The flow rate can range is between 25 up to maximum of 130 liters per minute. This solar photoreactor has as a collector one sun CPC, which is one sun compound parabolic collectors. But one of the two modifications that allow us to reach and to be above or beyond the state of the art in these CPC collectors is the fact that the normal and the ideal collector that is presented on this figure on the top has been simplified. The design has been simplified by our colleague Tiago Osorio. So the aim of this is to have a lower cost production and to try to achieve or to reach the commercial level of these collectors that have been, these CPC collectors have been tested and designed since long time ago, but their structure has remained the same for a long time. So this is a step forward and trying to make it a step towards the commercial use. The material of the collector is the electrolyte speckled mirror finished aluminium, and this is the characteristics in terms of total solar reflectance, and the total aperture area is 1.83 square meters. And here you can see the molding of the collector or the profile of the receivers. In terms of the receivers, this is the second innovation in this case, in this photoreactor. These receivers are tubular, they are horizontal, connected in series, and we have 4 tubes. They are made of borosilicate glass and with 125 millimeters outer diameter. And then this is made of borosilicate glass Duran. The length is 1.5 meters each of the tubes, and the valves and the tubes are made of high density polyethylene. So the innovation is also this higher diameter of the tubes that is much higher than the conventional ones that we can see since long time ago that reach between 30, 50, up to 75 millimeters in diameter. These are just some images showing the construction of the photoreactor since the beginning, the installation of the structure, the molding of the collector, also the receivers, the deposit and the back of the structure where the pump and the flow meter are installed. And for this, we also counted with the cooperation of Ricardo, who is also present here today, who has been participating in this process since the beginning. And here, just some more details about the reactor that is already installed. So when I was thinking on how to present these results, I thought, okay, so maybe the best way to show how we are assessing and evaluating this new photoreactor is to show how is the assessment of solar-driven wastewater treatment process as a general, and then apply and explain what is already being done in our specific case. So when we want to assess these treatment processes, of course, we need to know what are the characteristics of the wastewater that we want to treat, because it depends. It has a great variability, and it depends much if we are treating an industrial wastewater or urban wastewater. So first, we need to know what we want to treat. Then we need to characterize our reactor, both in terms of design and operation. And in this case, we need to see which is the type and the configuration of the collector, the reflector design and material, the optical efficiency, also the concentration factor, the receiver geometry, the dimensions and material, the operating mode, the tilt, the flow rate, and then in the case we use some oxidant, the loading method, also the reactor capacity, and the ratio between the illuminated volume and total volume. So from this, we can say we have already seen which is the design of the reflector, the material. I will show now the optical efficiency of this collector. Geometrical concentration factor, that in this case it is 1 sun CPC. So there is no, in fact, there's no concentration. So the concentration is 1 because all the collector surface is the same. The collector area is the same as the perimeter of the receiver. And then the operating mode, this reactor operates in batch mode. The tilt, it is inclined with 40 degrees. The flow rate, as I said, it's going range, and this is a parameter that we are going also to assess and to see which are the optimal conditions for this specific photoreactor. And then the oxidant loading method, it depends on the process that we are using. And in our case, we are just starting to test this reactor using a convention. And to compare with the state of the art, we are using heterogeneous photocatalysis with the commercial P25 titanium dioxide at the varying concentrations. And this ratio between the illuminated volume, total volume, in this case is 0.41. Another characteristic is the characterization of the advanced oxidation process. This is the ones that I was already explaining. In this case, we are just using heterogeneous photocatalysis. And then, of course, what is the point of characterizing all the components of a solar photoreactor without knowing if it works? So to see this, what we want to know is the total degradation time, because when we want to treat higher volumes, we want to have this treatment at the lowest or as fast as possible to allow us to increase the amount or the volume of treated water. Also, the organic, total organic carbon and chemicals and contaminants removed. And one important aspect is, especially when we are dealing with real wastewaters, is the toxicity of degradation products, because sometimes we can break the molecules, but the degradation products may be even more toxic than the parent compound. So in this case, we usually also carry out some ecotoxicological analysis. Then another important point is the microbial inactivation and also the energy consumption per volume of treated water. And at the last step, the economic assessment, both in terms of CAPEX and OPEX, and also the specific treatment cost along the system lifetime, that in this case should be around 10 years. So as I was saying before, we have already also carried out the optical efficiency assessment of this reactor with the help of our colleague Yogo of the Renewable Energies Chair. And for this, he used this open source ray tracing software, Tonatio, that enables the calculation of the expected optical performance of the collector. How? This is through the ratio between the amount of power that is absorbed in the receiver by the total amount of power that gets to the entrance of the collector. And also, this allows also the calculation of the incidence angle modifier curves, which represent a variation of this optical efficiency of this collector, but in relation with the incidence angle of the sunlight, so both in longitudinal and transversal plane of the collector. So in this case, even though the ideal optical efficiency of this collector, as reported by Tiago Osorio, is 0.9. In fact, when we applied this analysis of the real photoreactor, the efficiency is only 0.6. So there are losses due to for instance, the characteristics of the receiver, the tubular receiver. So continuing to assess the saltwater photoreactors, when we are dealing with solar with direct solar energy, we need to carry out also solar irradiance measurements. So we have the possibility to have nearby a meteorological station that gathers data on direct normal irradiance, global horizontal irradiation, and diffuse horizontal irradiation. Because one of the beauties of this type of solar collectors is that they can use not only with direct but also with diffuse irradiation. And another point is also to know how much UV can reach the collector. Because as our colleague Raul was explaining before, for instance, in the heterogeneous photocatalysis, this wavelength, the UV range is the one that is efficient in this kind of processes. So in this case, also a UV radiometer and a gyranometer are installed directly over the plane. And also another important aspect is to control the flow rate of the process. So a flow meter is also installed in the reactor. And also, since we also want to couple this with PV, we need to know how much electricity we need to carry out these treatment processes. So far, during each test, we check how much electricity is consumed, and in average is 0.6 kilowatt hour per hour of test, with the main consumption being by the pump. So going to the overall assessment, we have been carrying out a few experiments using, for instance, phenol as the model compound, and we are also here you can see the experiments in the reactor, but also for comparison purposes, here in the bottom you can see the illuminated control, but also since this is a photochemical process, we also have a dark control. Just a few results showing that in the case of phenol, with a concentration of 10 milligrams per liter and the flow rate with 120 liters per minute, we carried out some experiments with increasing concentration of the titanium dioxide, and we reached a maximum of 63% conversion rate with 200 milligrams per liter of titanium dioxide. But the good thing is that there is not such a big difference between the lower concentrations and the maximum. So it seems that our hypothesis that increasing this white type length, we can reduce the concentration of the catalyst to be used. And of course, for comparison purposes, we also use another parameter that is the UVA accumulated energy over time. So that allows for better comparisons than just time. So this is what is represented in the chart on the right, which means how much energy is needed to degrade at a determined percentage of this compound. And another aspect is because we don't want just to break these molecules, and in this case we can have some degradation products, but we want to mineralize it, so to convert it into water and carbon dioxide. And these are results presented on the bottom that range between 18% with a concentration of 10 milligrams per liter up to 35% with 200 milligrams per liter. And then this is just the results of the control. We carried out some experiments also using this antibiotic sulfamethoxazole, which is also well known. And we carried out experiments with 10 milligrams per liter. And here you can have also our first results with the conversion rates ranging from 8.1% when there is no catalyst used in the process, just photodegradation, but reaching 84% with the maximum concentration. But here again, and it's even more clear than in the case of phenol, there is not much difference. For instance, when we have 25 milligrams per liter of titanium dioxide, and we reach a conversion rate of 74%, up to when we use 200 milligrams per liter, reaching 84%. So what we need to do now is to understand what is the optimal catalyst concentration for this kind of photoreactor. Because the aim in this case is also to reduce the concentration of the catalyst, because it is also what is very expensive in the case when we carried out these wastewater treatment processes. If we want also to upscale it to a commercial scale, we need to know what are the costs involved. So we need to carry out an economic assessment. These are just the first data related to the construction of this reactor, and in the case of one, these are the estimated costs for 1 cubic meter of treated water, and would be around 11,000 euros, 800. Of course, at the end of the project, we also have further data on the OPEX for the maintenance and operation costs. And for the moment, this is all. We are still working on the process and the assessment of this reactor. And this is a real teamwork and with all the involvement of these people. And we would like also to thank the support of Isabel from CMAT, who has been really helping us a lot and leading us in this way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena.
Thank you.
Is there any questions for Elena? Thank you, Elena. Well, with this, for the people attending online, we have finished this second cluster school. Just remember that all the presentations given today and also the recording will be available on the project website. And we will now begin preparing the third and last cluster school within the project that we hope we can do it for beginning next year. So thank you very much for the online attendance, and thank you, Dominique.